Good afternoon. Savva here from Savva Talk Spurs. How are we? Are we all very, very well? It is Tuesday. We play again on Saturday. We played last Sunday. And I want another game. We're back into the throw of the season. I feel like I really need to see games of football. We've seen Man United capitulate. We've seen Chelsea rise from the dead, apparently, and look amazing. We've seen Liverpool labour to 2 draws. We've seen Man City do what Man City do. We've seen West Ham lose 2 games. Forest have won a game. Bournemouth have won. It's all happening. It's all happening. So today is one of those shows where it's more about you than it is about me. And it should always be that way. In the next 4 or 5 minutes, I will put in the link into the chat. If you would like to come on, then please do. What I would say is if you do come on, please make sure that you have your name visible. Please make sure that you have a video visible, and please do not be somewhere where it is noisy. We'll try and do a one in, one out basis. But look, before we get into that, I just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone who always comes in the chats. It's always appreciated. People like Emil is always there. And we'll get to this comment shortly. Football Ferreira is always there. Wolves F1, yeah, Savva the Savva bot. I love that. Coach Silva asking if I've recovered from the weekend. I can assure you I have. It was a very, very long, messy stag do, but I am back and feeling fitter than ever. And I've got personal training tonight, which is wonderful. So let's get cracking. So one of the things I wanted to discuss today was, look, for years, Tottenham fans have been crying out, including myself, for another forward. Constantly asking, constantly saying, we need more forward options. What if Kane gets injured? What if Son gets injured? We've now got that player. And yet what I saw last night, I wasn't actually on any shows last night, but when I was watching some of the shows, it was hilarious seeing some fans say, oh, I think Richarlison should get a game this weekend. And fans going, oh, well, can't drop Son, can't drop Kane, can't drop Kulu. And it makes me question people's mindset, really. It makes me question, do we want to be a big club or not? Because, first of all, I think the word drop, do we want to drop them, I think is the wrong word. When you look at Man City, does Foden start every game? Nope. Does Mahrez? Nope. Right? Did Jesus start every game? Nope. Did Sterling? Nope. So I feel that Spurs fans, we've got to get away from this, that only 3 forwards can play. Now, I would say that other than Kulusevski's very good performance against Southampton, I would say that we've looked quite lackluster going forward. I don't think Kane and Son have been at it. I thought Kane was wonderful in pre-season, but hasn't carried that form in. Yes, he scored a header from a corner, but in open play, I don't really think he's done too much. So I find it quite interesting that the mere suggestion that maybe one of them sits on the bench for an hour and Richarlison starts against Wolverhampton Wanderers at home gets scoffed at. It's get laughed upon. Now, am I suggesting in any way, shape or form that the best front three at Tottenham isn't Kane, Son and Kulusevski? No, it's not what I'm suggesting at all. But what I'm suggesting is if you spend £60 million of your transfer budget, 2/3 of our transfer budget has been spent on this man, and yet fans don't like the idea of him starting a game for us. Let that sink in. Now, am I Richarlison's biggest fan? No, I'm not. Would I have signed him? No. But I am a Tottenham fan and he is here now. So why would we not give him a game? Sunday's game, I thought Kane, Son and Kulusevski it was horrendous. Let's be really honest. They were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I mean, Kulusevski, I didn't even realise was playing. Kane missed a sitter. And couldn't get on the ball. Son, I thought, looked awful. I thought the first 2 games, every time the ball hits him, it seems to bounce off and he loses possession. So I don't see anything wrong with saying, tell you what, Go on, Richarlison. You start this game. Up against Wolves at home. Nothing to lose. Yeah? We shouldn't be a team that if Richarlison starts instead of Son, instead of Kane, instead of Kulusevski, that we lose. That shouldn't be a reason that we go, oh, well, there you go. We lost because so-and-so started. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Why are we so adverse to anyone else starting? Yeah. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Let's see what we've got so far. Wolves F1 has said, in my mind, Richie should start against Wolves. Okay, yeah, good vibes. Not because Son is poor, but bench him and he comes back stronger. And I think that's a great point. I think it's about pushing players, motivating players. Say, you weren't at your best last week. So-and-so is going to play. And listen, if I then bring you off the bench, you then go and show what you're made of. I don't see anything wrong with that. But apparently we're not allowed to do that. Pete from North London is go and subscribe to his channel. Great guy. Him and his Arsenal mate have weekly debates about the clubs, about what's going on, their latest results, previous games, history, trophies, if any of you Spurs fans can remember those. So go and follow him. OCD Whiskey, big up to yourself, my friend. Thank you very much for the big up. Davinson the Defender, big up Savva. Thank you, big up to yourself. Wolves F1 coming in with the super chat. Thank you so much. That is much appreciated. As you know, I do give my super chats to charity. Simon Cohen said, hi, Savva. Love Henry show on a Sunday night. Yeah, love working with Henry and Stel and Will for the Spurs Corner. I think we're all very different in terms of our personalities, in terms of what we think. I mean, Will and I don't agree on a lot, but we respect each other's opinions a lot. Stel is very passionate. Henry's a bit more level-headed. So I think it's a good balance. Coach Silver said, both Kane and Son being poor first two games. Good idea to rotate with Richarlison against Wolves. I agree. I don't see anything wrong with one of them sitting on the bench and or Kulusevski and Richarlison getting a game. Wolves F1 said De Bruyne was benched 10 games last season, coming in like 5 of them sitting bench the whole game. The rest of the 5 wise moved by Pep. Look, at the end of the day, that's what top teams do. They don't have to start the same players week in, week out. So that was my understanding of buying Richarlison. So let's see what happens there. Hello, Brian Thomas, always a big supporter. Yes, please click the like button. It is always appreciated. There are 55 of you in the chat at the moment. We're just getting started. And there are 23 likes. So half of you have not liked. So please do. Stars Mars has said Richie changed the game. Yeah, I thought he had a good impact when he came on. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything amazing, but he just came on and worked hard and showed passion and closed down. And you would say that those things should be prerequisites for a player, but it wasn't happening until he came on. So fair play to him. I'm not one to say, oh, I don't like him, so I can't give credit. By the way, I've never said I don't like Richarlison. I wouldn't have bought him, but credit where it's due. Lucian has said rotating Son or Kane against Wolves could allow them to flourish later on in the season. I just think that's the whole point now, right? Is that we've got these players. But otherwise, what was the point? And I'll come to my next point about the 60 million in a minute. Simon has said Perisic and Basuma must start on Saturday. Simon, I cannot agree more with you. Got to see Perisic and Basuma start. I feel like, I mean, Graham, who normally does these shows with me, couldn't make it today. He turned around when we were watching the game together on Sunday and he said, same players, same performance. Why were we surprised that this performance happened when it's the same players? A lot to be said for that. Billy Horrocks says, Savva, Billy Horrocks, who disagrees with everything that I say. He is funny. Savva, you can't say our strikers were dreadful when their job was to defend the whole game. I can, because Kane and Son both went through on goal and both looked dreadful, didn't look confident, both scuffed their shots, didn't press and close the way Richarlison did when he came on. So I can say that. Yes, I absolutely can. Scott Emma said, I don't rate Richarlison, so I'm not overly keen on seeing him in, especially for Kane or Son. I think those two returning to form is more likely than Rich playing well. Okay, maybe, but then why did we buy him, Scott? What was the point? What was the point in buying him if we're never going to play him? Doesn't make sense for me. I'm not saying he's better than them. Of course he's not. But otherwise, how do you give players a rocket up their backside? Daniel Turner said it's a long season. We have to rotate players. I just think, Daniel, one thing it says is it says you can play as bad as you like for as many games in a row as you like, and you will not be dropped or rotated or rested, whatever term we want to use. That's what I think it says. And I think that's a bad message to send out. Simon said, do we need to play 3 centre-backs on Saturday? I mean, you know he will, right? I wouldn't. I feel like there's too many average defenders at the back there. There's too much averageness. Why not go to a 4-3-3, get Basuma in there with the 2 central midfielders? Why not do that? I don't understand it. But listen, it's the way Conte plays, and that's what he's going to continue to do. Tom Markinen, hello Tom. He has said, hi Savva and chat. I have no problem dropping Son or anyone from the starting 11. Tom, neither do I. No sentiment. No sentiment. If a player is not playing well, you're on the bench, you go in. Prove why you should play. Then when I bring you on, prove why I shouldn't have let you go out the team. Nothing wrong with that. Make them hungry. Make them greedy for it. Daniel Hammett said, I would start Perisic, Basuma and Richarlison on Saturday. Give them a chance to prove what they can do against Wolves and show the current squad that they aren't guaranteed to play. Absolutely, Daniel. Absolutely what I was just saying. Tom agrees. I agree. Absolutely. I think we need to get to the stage where no one is guaranteed a game. No one. Wolves are not good at the moment. We need to start the new signing, especially Spence. Yeah, Amir, I think it's going to be interesting against Wolves. One of my friends sent me, let me just see. One of my friends sent me a message earlier. Just going to see if I can find it, which said what their potential 11 could be. And it didn't actually look too bad. So a potential 11 for Wolves could look like this. Sarr in goal, Semedo, Collins, Kilman and Johnny. And then 6 going forward looks good. Whether there's enough goal power, but there's some silky players there. You've got Neves, Nunes, Guedes, Podence, Neto and Rao. So whilst I think we will beat them, what I don't want to do is just completely dismiss them. I don't think they've got enough goals, but I reckon they'll probably come and play. They'll be a lot better than Southampton. I can assure us of that. Pete says, just because someone starts didn't mean they finish and vice versa. Okay, I don't know what you quite mean, but okay. Daniel has said, throw Doherty on for a start too. Absolutely. I don't want to see, just me, I don't want to see Emerson Royal in a Spurs shirt. It's painful. He's so bad. So bad. Louis, 2705 has said, Sav, I don't know how good this squad can do, even with Basuma Perisic starting. Because then really only Richarlison can make a difference. Got to just hope Conte effect is enough. I agree, Louis. I completely agree with you. I feel that we've really wasted this window. Sorry, I know lots of people will disagree. I feel we've really wasted this window on players that there's some decent players in there, but nothing that makes me go, yes. Beta THFC, welcome to you. Has said, next 4 games, we have to win it all. Do you think we can? Then facing Man City. On paper, we can. But look, it's not a given. It's not a given. No game is a given. I don't think we're good enough yet to rattle off, just go, yeah, that's us. We're going to win all of them. But on paper, we should. But football's not played on paper. I'm going to put the link down below. If anyone does want to join, please go backstage, have your camera on, and then have a point you want to talk about. Please don't just come on the show and sit there. What do you want to talk about? What's the question that you want to ask or debate? Coach Silver said, would like to see Richarlison, Basuma and Perisic start. Correct. I would as well. Scott said Richarlison was so bad every time he touched the ball on Sunday. Maybe it was decent pressure in Chelsea though. Yeah, look, I don't think he was. I don't think it was like he was amazing, but he did come on and he did show that fight that the others didn't appear to be showing when they were on the pitch. And he added a different dimension. I'm not the biggest fan of Richarlison. I can't say this enough. But otherwise, why spend 60 million on him? Surely that 60 million, if we're saying this bloke shouldn't play, surely that 60 million should have gone on a right wing back, a centre back, an attacking midfielder. Surely. Longley is also, if he is fit, I'd give Longley a game instead of Davis. I want to start seeing these new players. I'll be honest with you, Coach Silva. I'm bored of seeing Davis. I'm bored of Dyer. Yeah, I'm bored of Mora. I'm bored of Royal. I'm bored of Sessignon. I'm bored of these players. They don't do anything for me. Enfield Jid, I agree. I like Podence. Very good player. Very, very good footballer. Big up to Anthony Joshua. Also, if anyone, let me know in the chat, have any of you joined the Fantasy Premier League? Because I have got the table to show you. So let me know if you are, and I'll put the table up. Peter said, why does this or that one have to start? They can come on. Well, why spend 60 million on a player like Richarlison if you've got no plans on starting him if the other forwards aren't playing well? What's the point, Peter? We may as well have spent that 60 million elsewhere. No other club thinks like this. Only Spurs fans. Only Spurs fans seem to think like this.
Big up, Savva.
The man, the myth, the legend, the 99th Couva. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing well. I was just having a little conversation with somebody offline about this situation at the moment. And something came up, and I knew it was just your cup of tea, this subject. For me, it's why do you find you have to argue so intensely with people about the quality of some of our players? the amount of people that think Dyer and Davis are like world class.
I know.
It's like we just watched what Chelsea were doing to us. We got away with a point, which was a fantastic result under the circumstances. Yeah. But you look at the way Reece James played when he's playing centre half. Mm-hmm. He was fantastic. He pocketed Sonny. You look at Koulibaly, who we said, oh, he's over the hill and everything. He had no sweats at all game, did he? It's only when we chucked numbers up front and had a go late on that anything was happening at all. But,
I mean, I'll tell you the funny thing for me, Couva, was all last week, all I heard was that Kante and Jorginho wouldn't get in R11. And all I saw on Sunday was them absolutely dominate the game of football. And this is where, look, I get it, right? I get it. Get behind your own players, big them up. I get it. But there also has to be a sense of realism and reality in those opinions. Like, if I said to you, this weekend at home, Spurs can either start Kante and Jorginho, or Bentancur and Højbjerg that have been playing. Which two are you picked? Right. But that's what it is. I mean, talk to me about this situation we're talking about at the moment, Couva. I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. I must have read too much Mystic Meg in the Sun newspaper when I was growing up to see if my story ever made it in there. But the thing that baffles me is we spend £60 million on a striker, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you know me. It wasn't like I wanted him, but he's here, right? There's nothing we can do. He's here. The mere suggestion of him playing at the weekend causes uproar. Like, oh my God, you can't drop Sonny. You can't drop Kane. Oh my God, Kulu's amazing. Why spend 60 million then? Why spend 60 million? Welcome, Soren. Why spend Couva 60 million on a centre forward that then fans are so against seeing play?
Yeah, it's madness. Why would we not want extra options up front? What happens when Sonny or Kane are actually injured? They should be changing the tune then, won't they? When we're looking at bringing one of the youngsters on and then saying, oh, well, they're not ready for it. Why is the bench so weak? We just strengthen the bench and given ourselves options for starting as well. The way we finished that game against Chelsea, you can have all four of those attacking options on the pitch at the same time. Right. Why not? In fact, I'd quite like that idea. How about starting that with four up front against Wolves? That'd be a bit of fun, wouldn't it? Gung Ho Conte, that's what I was saying on one of the other posts. But why not? People are scared of change. People are scared of what? Because somebody's got a big name on the shirt, that means they're undroppable or can't be rotated or anything. I agree we shouldn't drop Sonny at the moment. You don't drop people on 2 games, do you? I mean, he was our top scorer last season.
Is the word drop, or is it rotating and giving someone a rocket up their backside? Not Son. I'm talking about
same thing for me. Doesn't call it whatever you want. It worked with Kulusevski, didn't it? He dropped out of the team that 1 week last season.
Right.
Came back in firing. I don't think you need to do that with Sonny. I don't think you need to do that with Kane. But if they do see it, the likes of Kulusevski getting dropped last season, it's going to stick in their mind as well. If they do get players, if we do start getting players in, they aren't necessarily guaranteed that starting spot. I'm not worried about it on the first couple of games though, because banged in 4 against Southampton, still got 2 against Chelsea, and Chelsea played fantastically well and had Kane and Sonny in the pockets. So no panic at the moment. But
I mean,
we've got options, haven't we? Options is a good thing.
Absolutely. And Soren, let me bring you in here. So first and foremost, this wasn't something that I actually brought up, right? I was watching a lot of shows last night, and it was funny because there was some of the fan base saying, Richarlison came off the bench, changed the game. I'm not saying he was amazing, but he put himself about, changed the game, helped us win it. Should he get given a start? Now, for me, I don't really care either way, but it's the fans that go, oh my God, no, he definitely shouldn't start. That makes me question the 60 million for a bloke that so many fans go, God, I don't want him starting against Wolves at home. No disrespect. What do you make of it, son?
I'm kind of thinking, I don't think he should start. Not for the reasons you've just kind of said, but more going along with kind of what Kulu just said. Kuva. I wish it was Kula.
Good mistake.
But to me, I don't think we should drop Kane and Son, because I do think there's a difference between drop and rotate. Dropping means they've been playing badly, you've dropped them. Rotating means they may still be playing well, but we're going to give you a rest. That's my take on rotate and drop. But what I do think is we should maybe make those substitutions earlier. You can soon tell whether they're having a poor game. Bring them off. Make it, it's like, oh shit, I'm coming off. That's more of a kick up the arse than, right, you're not starting next week. And we saw last year I think it was sort of a month or 2 months before the end, where Sonny was having 3 or 4 bad games, and we kept playing. I mean, I know we didn't have really anyone to change him with, and then all of a sudden he clicked again, didn't he? And to me, 2 games in, let's not get knee-jerk. Let's another game. I mean, if against Wolves, Kane and Son are playing bad, then to me, get them out. We've got the players. But I do think, if Richarlison starts on, against Wolves, I'm not bothered. Fine. Give him that start, because to me, I don't think he was the big change on against Chelsea, because Perisic has already come on and he was starting to get in and just move a little bit. I don't think Richarlison did much wrong, and I don't think he did a vast amount right. If that makes sense.
I hear. Yeah, I hear. Just quickly, just before we carry on, Tom Markingham with the super chat. Thank you very much. He said he's enjoying the show and the sharing of views. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I will try. It can be very tiring, but we do enjoy it. It's in our blood. All right then. So let me put another spin on this thing, guys. And coming off the back of your point there, Kulusevski, when you said, the kind of 4-2-4. Kind of about that formation. Is that something you'd like to see Spurs adopt more for home games where we should be winning? Like, is there a reason why we have to play 3 centre-halves and then 2 holding midfielders in front at home against weaker opposition?
Yeah, the obvious reason why we started off that way is because we were very poor at the back.
Yeah.
With the likes of especially Basuma coming in now, you'd have to say we've got a bit more strength in front of that those back 3 now. So yeah, against some of the weaker teams, you probably could have a bit more fun and go for that aggressive 4-2-4. Why not? It's nice to know it's there in the locker if we need it, because it was quite effective against Chelsea. They didn't really have the tactics sheets out to be prepared for that. It was totally unexpected for them, wasn't it? I think Richarlison's impact though can't be underestimated, because although he wasn't directly involved in the goals, it was that physicality and that hounding down of players. They didn't have time on the ball up there anymore. Made it really uncomfortable for them. When you bring Perisic on alongside, who gets forward very well, as we know, suddenly we got numbers up there. We've got a bit of aggression up there, bit of physicality, putting ourselves about, creating space for some of the players that weren't getting it before. You noticed that with Kulusevski having a sort of 15, 20, 25-minute spell, he was doing really well when we'd made the changes. He started getting into the game. And it's that kind of change-up you look at. Now, starting off that way could be really interesting in some games. Just really get the crowd on our side from the off. You know, if we know, say, Wolves are coming up, aren't they? We did terribly against at home last season. 2-0 loss, wasn't it? We were just awful that game. What about starting with that sort of mixing up? I don't think Conte will, because Conte does like control. But it kind of, it's there in the back of your mind thinking that's an interesting little, I wouldn't say gamble, but it's an interesting little way of mixing things up and keeping people interested. I have a feeling we're going to start with the tried and trusted 3-4-3, though. This is one of the things that this is the whole point in Richarlison. He does give you those options. You can drop any of those front three when needed for whatever reason. He can fit in there, but you can also have him on at the same time. It's all what it's all about. It's options we did not have last season.
Do you not think, though, Coover and Savva, that sometimes having a player like Richarlison coming off the bench for those last 15, 20 minutes when we are starting to look a little bit down to give you that injection, he might not be like that whole match. I mean, I know it's a totally different player and people have different opinions on it, but look at last year with Moura. He would come on for 15 minutes, 10 minutes at the end. He would look fantastic. We'd start him, and then it was like, why the hell have we started him?
That was more the season before with him, wasn't it?
Season before, sorry, I've lost track. You get to my age and time.
Oh no, mate.
So, sorry. Yeah, listen, I get that, and I think there's a lot of truth that could be in that. Then my counter argument to that is, if that is the player that I've got Kulusevski on the mind now because of Goober's name. If that is the player that Richarlison is or could be, then I question the 60 million being spent on that rather than what we can all glaringly obviously see what's needed. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, but I don't mean it as a like a long-term suggestion, but to me, for the first few games, let's just see how we get along. Instead of just knee-jerk saying, right, Sonny's had 2 bad games, we need to swap him out. Let's do that, say, right, going to stick with you, Sonny. Go out there and prove to me what you do. Otherwise, you're coming off. And if you come off again, having another poor game, or Richarlison's there to start. But keep Richarlison hungry, because what he's probably trying to do at the moment is say to the gaffer, look what's happening when I'm coming on. He's only done it once now, so let's see what he does again if he comes on. See if he's still got that hunger. See if he's still, against the lower team, rather than just instantly saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to start this match." Because you had 10, 15 minutes at the end of Chelsea. Okay,
so let me ask that, Kuva. Look, as football fans, we do tend to get a bit knee-jerk at times. I mean, just the other day, this guy came onto my show, I think his name was Soren, all these bottles in the background, and told me that Spurs were getting 18 points from their first 18. And no, I'm just joking, Soren, I'm just joking. No, Kuva, on a serious note, not to say we're worried, but have you been a bit surprised at how Kane and Son have started the season? Look, we know Kane is notorious at starting slow. I know he got the header, but notoriously starts slow. Son has looked off the pace. Is this just the case that Kulusevski really outshone on the first game and Chelsea cut off all our supply?
Yeah.
Or anything deeper?
I'm going for option A.
Okay.
Don't underestimate how good Chelsea are defensively. They shut us down for large periods of that game, which is what made it such a bloody good result. Southampton, if the rest of the team's performing, you're smashing 4 goals in and you could have got 8, what's the problem? So I've got absolutely no worries about it at all. It'll be, next week, we could be looking at, smacking 3 or 4 past Wolves, Sonny getting a hat trick, and everything's rosy again. So don't fret it at all. As for the point about spending so much on Richarlison, I'd have to argue that that's just the going rate if you want to have a proven Premiership striker. He might not be the greatest goal scorer in the world, but from what he offers to the team, it's the only one of the few options around that can really fill in for Kane when he's missing. Because Sonny is not an aggressive sort of target man. At least Richarlison can do that. I mean, the only other one is one we got crazy linked with and excited about last night when we're thinking of Firmino from Liverpool. I mean, if he was available, would you take him now? Because I would.
Yeah, but do you know what the funny thing about this, Coover, is I remember having a conversation, it was with Henry, Stell and Will ages ago about Firmino. And I said, look, this guy doesn't score 20, 30 goals a season. But I just feel that Liverpool's best years came when he was the link man between midfield and the forwards. And he didn't play up front, did he? He kind of sat in that hole, got the ball, and just allowed Salah and Mane to just make those runs. And
one of the few other ones that I can think was an obvious one to do as well would have been Cavani. But he's obviously, if he's not retiring now, he must be on the brink of it. He's too injured, isn't he?
Yeah.
But Cavani was superb for the same role.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? When you look at the forward options we've got, scoring goals should never ever be an issue for us. But there are games like, let's be honest, against Chelsea, we struggled to create anything. It was quite lackluster. So, sorry, let me bring you in here. I mean, how good were Chelsea? As bad as we were, how good were they?
Better than most people thought, I believe.
Right.
And all these people that have been saying, Chelsea have finished this year, they're not, we knew they were going to be good. If they crap all season, there's 2 or 3 games they're going to get up for, and that's whenever they play us. It was inevitable. I mean, I don't know where you got that, me saying 18 points from. I need to see video evidence of that one.
Oh, Soren. I've got a video evidence of this if I need to clip it.
Did I tell you I've got a twin? Same name, everything.
Who's also in a room full of bottles, yeah?
Yeah, we live together. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
His are half empty though.
Yeah, but he talks a lot of shit all the time, so it was one of those predictions when I said that it was the right time for us to play him, because it could have easily gone our way until the kickoff, and then it wasn't going to. But I mean, as for spending 60 million on Richarlison and sitting him on a bench, let's just go back 2 or 3 seasons, and every Spurs fan just kept saying, "Why aren't we buying a striker? Why aren't we buying a striker? Why aren't we buying a striker?" We've now kind of bought a striker for 60 million who might be sitting on the bench because he's not as good as Kane yet. And then we're all saying, why have we spent 60 million on a striker to sit on the bench? That's just how it goes, unfortunately. The thing is now, Conte can turn around and look and think, how am I going to change what's happening on the... Because my 2 front men aren't going, oh, I've actually got somebody that might be able to change a game now. That's why we spent 60 million on Richarlison.
Well, what would people prefer? Another Vinicius, Llorente?
Well,
I think Richarlison's a better option, to be honest. But
I think the only... I get it, right? Football now... And listen, I watched the show last night that you were on, Kuva. I was trying to decide which one I fancied more out of you, Iggy, Stell, and Bob. And it's been keeping me up all night. But that's a different story. Yeah. And one of the things I think Iggy said was, pay the money, get your man. So listen, Jamaican Spur, can you dial back in about 15 minutes, dude? Is that cool? Thank you. Cheers, mate. And also, there are 135 of you in the chat and only 41 likes. That is as bad as Tottenham on Sunday. Can we please smash that like button? And basically what Iggy, I believe, was saying was, pay the money, get your man. And unfortunately, that's what you've got to do in football now, right? And we keep seeing a lot of stories of Spurs, we've got in with a first bid of 30, but the club want 60. And you just think, oh, I know where this is going. But you've got to do that, right? And the only place where I'm coming from this with, guys, is if that 60 million was there, only me, I'm not Conte or Paratici, but I would have preferred that was spent on a position where we needed someone to go straight in for the first team, i.e. centre-back, right wing-back, a creative player, rather than an area where we already had 3 very good class attackers. Does that make sense?
I think it does, but I also think, like we keep saying, over the last year or two, we've lost Kane with his ankle. We've lost Sonny every now and again. And we've had no one to replace them. I mean, Sonny stepped up when Kane went out, but he was on his own. If anything had have happened to him, we'd have been absolutely knackered. So I do think it was sensible finally getting that player in. But I still also think that Richarlison has been bought a little bit more for a long-term project, knowing Kane's probably got another 2 years, 3 years. I mean, he might go longer. But Richarlison's now, 25, 26? Probably got 6, 7 years. And it looks like we're starting to build a team that's for the future. And I know you don't like that word necessarily, building for tomorrow. But to me, I heard somebody the other day going on about Udogie or whatever from Udinese saying, why the hell have we bought this left back and loaned him back? Well, that was the terms of the deal to sell him for a start. And he's a young one for tomorrow. Same as Jed Spence, by the look of it, a young one for tomorrow. Same as Basuma. I know Basuma's good enough to probably start. But again, this is a team that we seem to be building, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And I think that's where Richarlison comes in a little bit as well. We've got 2 very aging strikers coming up, and we're going to need somebody to slot in. Well, if he's already in the team and he's already here and he's enjoying life, then maybe that's forethinking of what's going to come.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not that I don't like building for the future. I just want that to be alongside the now. And I still feel, if I look at this window, I still feel that so much of it is, again, it's looking forward. And that's fine. And that's great. And, we want to future-proof. But if that is the case, then what we can't do is have any excuses at the end of the season if we don't hit our targets, right? Yeah. So if we were to finish 5th or 6th, and I'm not saying we will, but if we were to finish 5th or 6th, it can't be, but look what we've bought for next year. It's kind of like this was the moment. But, Kuva, let me come to you. I kind of know your answer because I saw you say this last night, but in terms of the next 2 weeks, what is it absolutely imperative that we do? I.e., if the window's shut right now and this was it, have we done what we needed to?
Not in my opinion, no. I
Why?
think you look, well, what's our objective this season? Is it just to scrape top 4 again, or is it to kick on? For me, it's got to be to kick on. Right. Otherwise, you're wasting time. You're dawdling. So we've got to look at the teams that we are likely to be competing with to get ahead of and improve our league position at the very minimum, and try and win something. Well, this is the important bit. Always it seems to be taking an eye off the ball that, league position is everything. It isn't everything. Trophies do matter. They are the things that get put up on your wall. Pictures of Steve Perryman, Gary Mabbott lifting trophies, Robbie Keane with a cup over his head. Great pictures. Want more of those. That's what the clubs are for. But right now, it has to be an improvement. So Chelsea are an obvious target. They finish 3rd. Overtake them. Take that 3rd spot. Liverpool starting to falter a little bit at the beginning of the season. It's Liverpool. You'd expect them to recover. But are they going to be the team they were last season? I don't think they are they? I think that loss of Mane is really big for them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think this is a conversation probably for 10 games in. I've seen a lot of people already, the moment Liverpool didn't win their first 2 games, kind of doing the same thing they did last year when City didn't. And every year it's
because
the year they drop off.
It's Liverpool. They could well find a way and start grinding out wins again. But the question really is, have we done enough or everything we can do to try and bridge that gap, which we may not be able to? And for me, the answer is no, we haven't. We have still got weak right wing back choices. We've still weak central defenders. We still lacking a creative spark up front. Kulusevski's doing a brilliant job, but if he is out for a game, we're going to feel that. We are going to notice that his creativity and goal threat and assists is suddenly not in the team, especially if Sonny and Kane aren't firing like they haven't been in the first 2 games. So somebody to come in like that, we're linked with the likes of Milinkovic-Savic. Oh my God, that's the kind of quality you want to be talking about. Bringing someone like that and a really well-established right wing back, this window suddenly becomes a really good one. Then
it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let's just jump back a little bit, Coover. Again, Milinkovic-Savic, we're linked to. Hopefully, you never know. We still seem to be linking to Zaniolo. We're still not linked to a right wing back. I don't honestly think we're going to get one in. I honestly don't think we're going to get one in. And
but doesn't that baffle you, Soren?
Well, it does, but it doesn't. It's weird because it's one of those where I'm kind of starting to look at this window and think, has Conte looked at it and said, right, although I'm not happy with our back line, I'm not unhappy with it. This window, I want to sort out the front, and then next window, we're going to sort out the back. Because it just seems to me that the players we're getting linked to now are up front. They're all almost starters. Milinkovic-Savic, Zaniolo. These could be starters. These are good enough to almost start. But then everyone we're linked to now at the back, it's all for the future. We're not looking to change anybody. And I mean, all window, other than the Jed Spence one, which from what we're all understanding wasn't a Conte choice, we've not been linked to a single right back. And then
Soren, can I ask you a question? So, listen, I know most Spurs fans will always say if Conte wants him, I want him. If Conte's happy, I'm happy. And that's cool. I don't subscribe to that, but that's cool, right? From your point of view, the game against Chelsea, from my point of view, I should say, I'm not talking with you. From my point of view, the game against Chelsea, even with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who I think is a brilliant footballer, by the way, playing out of position at right wing back, and Cucurella making his home debut and making his first start, didn't that just show the gulf in class between their wing backs and ours? And for those people going, I think Conte might be happy. I just can't see how he's watching what Sessegnon and Royal did against Chelsea or didn't do and thinks, I need to strengthen there. Now, I get it that we've got Perisic, that for me, I'll be baffled if he doesn't start every game he's fit. Yeah. But on the right side, surely he's got to go out in these last 2 weeks and go, I need X, Y, or Z, because we look lackluster there, Soren, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it baffles me looking on thinking, you watch Conte's teams and he's always got class on the wings. The wing backs are always class. The players that can put a ball into the box, run past players and put a ball into the box. And you look at ours and you think, Emerson Royal, I mean, as much as people are slating him off, I don't think he's a bad player. He's not good enough for us, for the position we want him. Had he been in the back four, then I think he could be a damn good player. But as a right wing back, for attacking mentality that we've got, he's not good enough. Sessegnon, still not ready. Whether he'll ever be ready, I don't know. But, that game against Southampton, I thought he was pretty good. And then against Chelsea, he was so outclassed. Absolutely.
I just want to interject here. Still not ready or just not good enough?
Well, that's what I said. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. Still not ready, stroke, not good enough. Will he ever be good enough?
For you? Which one for you, Soren?
Well, I'm not the biggest Cesc fan. So there's your answer. I mean, out of the two, if it wasn't for attitude, I would prefer to see Reguilon start than Sessegnon. And I know people will disagree with that, but I think it's more his attitude his off-pitch things than his on-pitch. But
he's the better player by a mile. A mile.
But from what everybody's saying, and I mean, I've only seen highlight reels, so I'm not going to really make a comment. But this lad that we've signed from Udinese, Conte's asked for him, Paratici's asked for him. So I think he came runner-up to Perisic or something, didn't he, last year?
Second most goal contributions. From
and 19 years old.
Yeah.
So I think he will be our starting left back as of next season. Right wing back, I don't know what's going on there. Unless, well, I mean, like if Jed Spence wasn't Conte's decision, then why the hell have we signed him?
Yeah. So let me. So Kuva, I mean, I think before Spurs have played the kind of wing backs formation, I don't feel like the fullback conversation has ever been as powerful as it is now, right? Before it was like, okay, I want better fullbacks, but that's not where we're going to win or lose full 4 titles or cups. I feel like now
I'm not sure about that. I mean, we used to have Walker and Rose, and we watched the fullbacks deteriorate from there. I mean, we're all pointing it out.
The second part of my question will answer the first part. But the point is now is we're not just asking them to defend. These people are now the attacking outlets for Tottenham Hotspur. Whereas before, yes, having good fullbacks is great, but they weren't our main source of attacking. Is that a worry for you then, that in what is such a famous formation because of Antonio Conte and because of the titles he's won, that we haven't strengthened there, and that even when we have the one of the possibly the toughest away game of the season, we still go with Sessegnon over Perisic? It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, for me, that sums up the transfer window. If we don't address that situation and get in very good quality wing backs, we have failed.
Yeah,
that's it. That is what I would say is not backing the manager, failing to provide him with what he needs.
So the big question within that, Coover, is we've strengthened, in theory, our left side, but we've not even looked at the right side. So is it Conte saying, I don't want to change it, or we don't need that? Maybe not, I don't want to. Maybe more of a, we don't necessarily need to change it, because we haven't been linked to anybody, but yet we've been linked to left-hand side. We've now bought 2.
I think that Jed Spence signing was a big eye opener for the people that thought certain way about this club, and they said, "Oh, Jed Spence is a Conte signing." Then they suddenly find out, "Oh, it's not a Conte signing." There's a better insight to what goes on within the club than just assuming everything's what Conte wants.
Yeah, but he's the only one we've been linked to. So what is going on the right side? How are we looking at left-hand sides, but not right-hand side?
For me, I'm banking everything on the fact that we're going to be getting a right wing back before the end of the transfer.
I don't think we will. I honestly don't think we will. I mean,
yes, that worries me.
Yeah, it baffles me. I honestly think the only players that are going to come in will be attacking midfielder I still think that they're hell-bent on trying to get Zaniolo. And if we haven't walked away from that, there must still... It's either media still trying to catch up with the fact that they've woken up from a long sleep saying, oh, look, we're suddenly linked with a player, let's keep it rolling. Or there is still something going on there. Milenkovic-Savic, let's get him in. I mean...
I think that the Zaniolo one, for me, the gut feeling is... we're reluctant to pay a big lump sum for him because of the injury problems, and he's not recaptured that form he had when he first burst onto the scene. And we're probably looking to get him fairly much on the cheap, but with the add-ons.
I mean, I think we were hell bent on trying to get Ndombele over there as part of the deal. So now he's maybe out the door. Maybe we'll actually go in with a proper bid.
Maybe.
I mean, this comment here, for me, kind of, encapsulates everything we said. We've got the best wing-back manager in the world. I can't think of another manager that plays wing-backs that is at that level as Conte. And for me, I would have thought the first thing you do is go out and go, okay, right, do we struggle to score goals? Not really. Right, first thing we do, left wing back, right wing back, centre halves, done. Then, if you've got any money left over, then you go, all right, let's get a creative midfielder and another full. I'm baffled. We've kind of gone the other way. I feel like we've done the goalkeeper and a centre forward. Okay, neither of which are going to start many games. I think we can agree on that, right?
Yeah.
You've got Spence, who I think we can agree again. I don't think we'll start more than 10 Premier League games.
If
Would that
any.
be fair?
If we even see him.
Right, okay, if we even see him. You've got Perisic, who I think we would all like to think is going to play 38 league games, right? But will he? Basuma, how many starts is Basuma going to have? I think 24, 25. So again, I'm looking at the window, lads, not saying it's been bad, but I can't see what we've done that goes, pow, must be in the first 11 week in, week out. There's your main man. And that for me is the worry. It feels like we've strengthened the bench, not the 11. Isn't that worrying for anyone else, or is it just me?
It's always comes back to the same thing, and it's almost tiresome, the debate on the club ownership and chairman and all that. But it's been the trait with this club for. You could even look back into the Sugar era as well. We go a certain length and get some decent players in, and then just don't go that extra mile. We just don't push ourselves over the line, get slightly out of the comfort zone and really try for something. And it feels like that's what we're doing on this window again at the moment. Getting a few basics and then leave some.
Question for you then, Kuva. So listen, this is something that I feel like lots of Spurs fans say that no other fans say. It's always, is the player available? Maybe our targets weren't available. Now, the way I look at this is Tottenham Hotspur employ Paratici and his team of scouts, etc. And their job all year round is to not only identify how good a player is and if he fits the system, but to identify what is the likelihood of getting them out of their club in the window, speaking to agents, speaking to their entourage, all this kind of stuff. So why is it when we get to a window, if we try and get a player, the answer is always, they might not be available, because that should be their job. And Milenkovic-Savic, for a second part of this, Kuva, a wonderful player. He's at Lazio, who are a good team, but not, we're not talking about taking a player from Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. Barcelona, they're a good team. Surely you put the money on the table, he's available. Isn't
exactly
that how it works?
Exactly. That's what I want to be saying. That we always get reports of when a bid has been rejected, don't we?
Yeah.
So, no, that's what I'm saying. We don't. Other clubs you'll hear that with. With us, it's usually, we're contemplating another inquiry for, or sounding out the possibility of making an inquiry for. No, just throw the money at them. Milenkovic-Savic, if they want, say, 70 million, slap in a bid of 70 million.
Right.
If they say no, you know where we stand.
It's that classic scene from Lord of the Rings, though, isn't it? When they're in the forest and they say, we've agreed to have a meeting about having a meeting to see whether we should have a meeting. That's those, isn't it? We've agreed that we're going to think about putting a bid in. So we're going to ask them if we should put a bid in. And then
this is why all the transfer windows always run out before we get our business done, isn't it?
Yeah.
But look at this. Money doesn't always do the trick. Now, can I ask you, in football, when has money not done the trick? That's all that money does, is the trick. Listen, Peter, I get it, and you side with the owners a lot, and that's cool. I get it. We're allowed different opinions, but why is it that it's always us that the excuse is a player might not be available? This is Paratici's job. The same way that I think Paratici has failed massively, and hear me out, shouldn't have paused there. I think he's failed massive with outgoings. We've made not a penny. A million. A million is like what, a fiver to me, right? In football terms, he's made £1 million on Ndombele loan. I don't know if he made any money on the Celso loan. Joe Roden on loan. Brian Hill's going out on loan. You've made, 5 million on Jack Clark, 7 million on Carter Vickers. So the only real money he's made is what, 25, 26 million from Bergwijn. I'm going to say it. For me, that's whether that's him, whether that's Levy wanting too much money for them, lads, isn't that really bad from a director of football that's the money we've brought in?
See, I disagree with you here, Savva. I don't think we can necessarily blame him. First of all, you know, we took a risk on Ndombele. We paid 55 million, was it? And nobody wants him. So what do we do? I mean, a week ago, we were all sitting around saying, let's just cancel his contract and pay him 30 million. Well, this isn't any better, really, but at least we're not cancelling his contract and we're not paying all of that money for his wages. Don't get me wrong. I don't, you know, somebody must want him, but nobody does. So getting him out on loan is the only thing we can do. So I don't think we can blame him for that. Now,
do you think that people may have bid Soren, but maybe have bid in and around the 25 million mark, as opposed to what Daniel Levy would probably want, which would be a little bit closer to what he paid?
Yeah,
in the 55 million mark.
Let's look at it this way, though, and this is what does tickle me every now and again. And I can't remember what show I saw it on, but there was a conversation about, do you think anybody from the club watches this type of stream?
No.
I would disagree with you there. Their PR people will watch little things like this. And now,
True.
What's to say that other clubs aren't watching it? And we're all sat here saying how shit these players are. And they're going to sit there and think, they want bloody 50 million for this player. All of their bloody supporters club are telling us how shit they are. We're not going to pay. Nobody's bidding for him. Let's just go in and say, well, we'll take him off your hands if you pay 70% of his wage. And I know it's hypothetical and it doesn't happen, but you know, I mean, if I was supporting, say, Chelsea or anybody else and watching and think that we're about to buy one of their players and they're all saying how shit he is, it's gonna get back to somebody at some point to say, yeah, we're not going to pay for this guy. They're desperate to get him out there.
I understand. I think for me, the thing is, what this has done, and okay, I'm not definitely blaming Paratici, but it's got to fall between recruitment and the owners, right? Yeah. Either for the now or for the past. Now, I look at this and go, what we've done essentially here with Ndombele, with Lo Celso, is kick the can down the road 12 months. Now, sometimes in life, that's a good theory, right? Out of sight, out of mind until it's back in sight and back in mind.
Yeah,
I get it. But aren't we at the stage where if he comes back next year, what, he'll have 2 years left?
Yeah.
And we might get 20 million for him then? Surely to goodness, we can get 20 million for him.
Well, maybe this is the thinking, you know, that, well, I don't think we can get it, but, you know, we've got to hope he goes away and has a somewhat decent, maybe even if he's crap to start with, but towards the end suddenly puts in 9 or 10 games that are really good and people just sit up. But I mean, Lo Celso, I don't think he's as bad a player as what a lot of people are saying. You know, you watch him for Argentina and he's not that bad.
I just don't think he can run. I just don't feel that he's very mobile. I feel like he's got some nice touches, but he's not got that turn of pace to get away from players. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you. But I mean, you know, look at him. Was it 2 years ago when he played for us? And when he had that string of games where he was like playing 5 or 6 games, 6 or 7 games, he started to actually look pretty decent. You know, he started to kind of almost run things in that midfield, and then he just went off boil again. And I do feel more for him out of all the ones that are going, because I do think there's a good player in there. He just doesn't suit us, and like you say, he certainly doesn't suit the system we're playing now. And Ndombele, I mean, you know, Christ, he could have been a superstar for us, but he's just a lazy twat. So
he really is. I mean, Kuva, let me ask you then. So now that Lo Celso's gone out on loan, and Ndombele, if he passes the medical, let's all fingers crossed that he does. Brian Hill is apparently going back out on loan. Rodon's now gone on loan. So, you know, Bergwijn, Clark, Carter Vickers, that's 7 players out the club in one way or another. Do you fully expect now that has freed up some space for some more incomings? And is that the right way round for you to do it? To take the gamble by waiting this late to bring in the players we need, knowing that Conte doesn't just like to throw people in. He wants them to have that rigorous training.
I think this ties in with that whole, remember that 150 million stuff that happens, and we drew 100 million of that out. It's interesting what you can read into what was said along with that. And it was for giving us greater financial flexibility. Now, looking back at what's happened on the transfer window, my interpretation of it is it allowed us to buy in lots of players early so we wouldn't go into the red with the bank. We had the money there available for those that early little surge of players, and then the rest of the window is just to sell them all off again, get the money back. That money goes back where it came from.
I mean, the funny thing is with that 150 million is it was never said it was for the team to buy players. Everybody jumped on it, and they had to announce it. It wasn't like, and they did it craftily, you know, that they made it sound like it was going to be good and we was going to do it. But it was everybody that got into this. We've got 150 million plus our transfer kitty plus sales. No, it was never going to happen like that. Never going to happen like that. You know.
But I think the real question then is why not?
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you. And the thing is now, I do see us still having a go for a couple of players. You know, I mean, the optimist in me says we've got to be going to try and sign somebody. And hopefully it's somebody that we really want.
No, sorry, just quickly, Ruti too. We're all talking about Milenkovic-Savic of Lazio.
I think happily take both though.
I'd have two Milenkovic. I believe this one just signed a new contract.
You're going to say yeah.
The worrying thing for me with something like this, Soren, is, and I'm so glad you brought up the 150 million chat, because at the beginning of this window, you know, there's so many people talking about that plus money coming in from transfers, plus Champions League. We've got 300 million. We're going to win the league.
Plus figures are pulling out of their arse like 40 million for Winks.
Right. Exactly. Plus people are going, well, we'll get 40 million for Winks. We'll get 50 million in Dombele. You know, we'll sell Joe Rodon for 25. And you're like, whoa, slow down. But last night on Last Word on Spurs, and it's nothing against them. It's just this is what the show it happened on. Matt Hayes said this, right? And this has been sent to me today. Matt Hayes said, and I quote, with the 150 million they've given Conte, it's clear that they're backing him. Right. Now, for me, this is all sorts of wrong. One, that's just a damn right lie at this stage, isn't it? There has been nowhere near 150 million pounds spent. Two,
they haven't even drawn all of it out for a start.
Right.
No, yeah, but I think what a lot of people are forgetting is we've got 3 players we've got to pay for this window. So I think we've got to pay for Romero. I always get his name.
But that's not backing Conte, is it?
No, but we've got to pay for him. We've got to pay for Kulusevski, and we've got to pay for Reguilon, whether he stays or not. That's 28 million we've got to pay for Reguilon. So between them, I think that comes to about 100 million, done it nearly, for them 3 players.
But you have to assume that's part of an ongoing process, though. With
it possibly is. But the point is, we've still got to think that money has got to have come from somewhere.
True, but Soren, that still wouldn't fall into the backing Conte, because that's historic, right?
Yeah.
We're not backing Conte over Romero. No. That was backing Nuno. You know, Reguilon was Jose. My point is, I feel, and what your point was, everyone sort of ran with this 150 million figure. And I remember, Kuva, we said it on so many shows, didn't we, that we will be closer to even in terms of net profit. I don't think we'll be even. But I believed at the beginning of the window, we'd spend about, what did I say, between 120 and 150, and I thought we would recoup about 100. Now, I'm completely wrong on the recouping, because no one wants to buy any of our players.
Yeah.
But I still don't see that this is any different to any other window, because in any other window, without this injection, without being able to draw this money, we would spend this type of money like last summer we did, right? The summer before we did. So my question to you is, what's different? I'm not being negative. I'm just asking, what is different this window?
Do you think this is the way I'm looking at it. Do you think that the club also expected to get more money for these players going out, and that's why we're not suddenly getting these top players? Because I know we haven't spent what we thought we were going to spend on the ones that have already come in, but maybe the ones that have gone out, we were expecting to get money for, and we haven't got any money for them, basically. So therefore, there isn't the money to spend anymore. And I know in that sense we have. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. If Conte at the moment seems to be happy, so therefore he's obviously thinking, well, at least they've gone out. I mean, Conte did a statement not so long back saying that as long as the clubs don't lie to him, then he'll be happy. So if we've turned around and said we will do our best with limitations to get some players in, and we will get you 6 or 7 players in, which we've done. So therefore, might not be the ones that we wanted, might not be the ones we expected, might not be anywhere near what Conte wanted, but they've not broken a promise to him in that sense that he's still happy. Now, these players going off have obviously freed up some wages, things like that. Now, maybe we will see somebody coming in. I mean, I think we've been linked to the Man U lad today or yesterday, haven't we? I can't remember. Is it James?
Garner. James Garner.
There's stories flying about the Leeds goalie as well for future reference.
But isn't it worrying, Soren, that I'm pretty sure every one of the reports I'm reading in the last 2-3 weeks, other than Zaniolo, appear to be just 19, 20-year-olds. And when I sit there and I think, surely this is what we've been doing. This is why we're in the position we're in now. This is why we have been so poor, historically, because we keep doing this. And how many young players actually work out? Because, for example, and this is for both of you, for example, I saw a post the other day, you guys probably saw it, where somebody put, oh my God, look at the Spurs 11 for the next 3 or 4 years. And it was like, Divine, Skip, Scarlett, Parrott, Agodi, Spence. And when you think, in theory, that's wonderful, right? That's wonderful to go, oh my God, all these 7 young players. It never pans out like that, does it? And this is the worry for me, lads, that it looks like we're doing that again rather than going Milenkovic-Savic, Zaniolo. Do you know what I mean? It feels like they're always ungettable, but only ever for Tottenham.
Yeah.
I think the problem is we've got too much to do. People go on about, well, Liverpool go out and they'll spend 80 million and 70 million on a player, and then it's suddenly... But they've kind of got their structure in place already. We've got too many players that we've bought. They haven't worked, so our recruitment's been shit. And then all of a sudden, we're now saying, well, let's go out and buy sets of world-class players. Well, if we went out and bought, I don't know, we were linked to Martinez and Bato. Oh, I forgot. It's gone. The defender from Inter. Bastoni, that's the one. That could have been 110, 120 million. Well, that had been us done, full stop. And we would have been no better off in strength. Now, I would have preferred to have seen them two come in because that would have been a great defensive player, which we need. Mm-hmm. We all talk about Hakimi. I mean, at the moment, he's never going to come to Tottenham, so we're not going to get... But, a player like that would have been fantastic. And that would have been backing Conte if he'd have come. But... instead we've kind of gone for that strength in depth. And I know it's the worst thing to say, but maybe next window we'll go and get those 1 or 2 big players.
But, okay, so Kuva, here's the thing for me is when bringing in a manager like Antonio Conte, you know what he does. You know how quickly he can affect teams. And it's amazing how I see the mindset of fans change based on the behaviours of Tottenham's transfer window. So, i.e., what I mean, at the beginning of this window, when certain fans were trying to say, look, just we're not going to do that. That's not how Tottenham work. This isn't what's going to happen. We were told we were negative and that Conte's not here for fourth. Conte's here to win. He will be backed immediately. Yet as the window's gone on, more and more I'm hearing, oh, no. Conte's here for the long term. This is now, he's happy with Fulham for this year. And it just amazes me how the narrative changes based on the same things that many of us have been saying for years. Does that make sense, Coover? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Conte's not going to be happy with just fourth, is he? No. If we're not challenging for stuff, he's going to be extremely unhappy about it. He's going to have those conversations on a regular basis with Daniel Levy saying, where are we going? This is where I think we should be now. Why are we not there? Why can't we need play? We need this strengthening. We need that strengthening. This is where he tends to fall out with our club owners in the past. It's when they don't match these expectations, because Conte demands success. It's not like we'll just take that as it'll be nice, but just league positions, everything. He wants the bloody trophies. I think that's why fans take to him so well as well. It's not like this. It's a no bullshit sort of approach to things. Now, the real question for me is, how happy is he really with this window? Because every single manager you ever hear will always say that they're happy with the transfer window. Everything's good at the club. They could be out the next week after saying something like that.
Right.
We've seen that time and time again. So the only real gauge to how well Conte is taking things will be, does he sign a contract extension?
I think I slightly disagree a little bit with that, Coover, because if you look at what's been said, and this has kind of been quotes from Conte himself, that the reason he's left some of the clubs, and not all of them, I'll admit, it's not necessarily that they haven't matched his ambition, is that they've promised him things and then rescinded on them. And so you look at Inter, they told him they weren't going to sell players, they were going to back him, and they kind of sold players, and that's kind of his hints are that's why he left. Not because they weren't necessarily backing him, it was because they broke the promises to him. Now,
well, that's still backing though, really, isn't it?
I know it is, but for argument's sake, say we've gone to him and said, look, we're not going to chuck the money that other clubs have chucked at you, but we will chuck a certain amount at you each time. That's different to saying, oh, we're going to buy all the best players we can possibly buy for you. Now, he's come out and I was one of the ones that didn't think he would be around for much longer than a year, 18 months. Once this contract was finished, I thought he would have gone. I'm kind of changing my mind from the things he's saying out of his own mouth by saying we've got to build for the future. Now, an interview that he's done fairly recently, I believe, was a point towards the last few months of the season. He turned around to his players and said, we can get fourth instead of just European places. That was the target. So his target was somewhere within the top six, basically. Then he's changed it to, we can get top four. I believe we can get top four. We are going to go for top four. This year, like we've said, I kind of say we didn't just clinch top four. Things helped us and blah, blah, blah. But I think his aim this year is still top four. But rather than just straight through top four, is to make sure we've got top four and we're not relying on other people to do us a favour. And that's why he's happier in that sense. And I know we want a trophy. Well, I'm not going to get into that, but I think he would still commit with us. And I don't necessarily see him signing a contract yet, because that's not the way he does things.
Yeah, I
still see him being happy if we get top four on our own merit, rather than relying. Oh, here comes Scott. Hey.
Here's Scott for another view. Just before I get the first question to Scott, first of all, everybody, there are 179 people in this chat and only 73 likes. Can I please ask, can the other 100 or whoever please just quickly go over and press the like button? It really does help. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please do. You're clearly here for a reason. Please subscribe and help me grow the channel. I'm aiming to get another 10 subscribers between now and 6 o'clock. Please let me know once you have so I can thank you.
Big up, Scott. What I was going to say very quickly in reply to Soren, though, was just the Conte signing the new contract. Right now, no, can't do it because we don't know. He doesn't know what's happening in the last. Well, maybe he does know what's happening with transfers. But if it goes the rest of this window with no more coming in, and we have a poor January window, for example, he's probably at that point thinking, I'm not signing this. It's after that January window, I'll start thinking, this is the kind of time you want to see a commitment from Conte. I think that's when we'll know.
I don't think. Sorry, I'm going to say I don't think any time before January that we'll see a contract signing. I think it will come around that January time.
Can I just quickly before I come to you, Scott? I do have a question for you, but just quickly before I do, Kuva and Soren, to round that off, I still can't help but think that if Conte's not signing a contract, why would top players that we want to go and sign? Why would they want to sign a contract? I'm just sitting on the fence. Why would? Do you know what I mean? If I came to you, Soren, and you said, "Look, come and work for me," blah blah, and I said, "Oh, hang on, but aren't you planning on leaving in a year?" You go, "Yeah, don't worry about that." I'd be like, "Well, no, I'm definitely worried about that because I'm joining because of you." So is there not that we could potentially be missing in the background?
Yeah, but it's the same as we've said over a few things, isn't it? You know, getting the top players in, they won't come until we start winning. We can't start winning until we get the top players and blah, blah, blah. And fully agree with you. You know, yeah, if I was a top player and Tottenham approached me and said, come and play for us, you know, this is where we're heading in the future. And you say, well, yeah, but Conte's only got a year left on his contract. I presume in that sense, it's all dependent what Conte is saying to them. You know, I mean, we know Conte spoke to a couple. We know how things work in a sense that, you know, you get certain promises. You know, I mean, the thing is, he could sign a contract and still be gone by January. That, you know, that's the thing. Yeah, but I do get what you're saying with it, and I do fully agree with what you're saying with it. But I also think that's not how Conte's ever worked. So,
okay, so
yeah.
Scott, let me bring you in here. I mean, this is a great point, and big up to yourself, Terry Wright. Do you know what? Since I've been on YouTube, I've never bigged up so many people. It's just never anything I would have done in real life. So, you know, big up yourself. But big up to you, Terry Wright, and to the 3 people that just subscribed to me. Thank you very much. If anyone else would like to, please do. Scott, welcome to the show. And let me drop you straight in. The difference for me is this comment here. Now, forget whether we think Chelsea are spending too much on Fofana or on Gordon or on Cucurella, or the fact is, if they want a player, they go out and they mean business, right? They just go, bang. Is that the big difference?
I think it's not even just the 90 million too, right? Like one of the things they do is, and they pay the wages. I think that's one thing that kind of gets a little bit hidden with us is the wages aspect. And that's one of the reasons why I say, like, yes, this window has been good for bringing in a lot of players, like the number of players is different, but we still haven't changed our wage bill. We still haven't shown that we're willing to go to those top players and put those wage bills in. And people can say, like, that's the one thing I'll always say about Grealish. He's the big one, right? Oh, Manchester City paid 100 million for Grealish. Ha ha ha, they suck. I don't think they're caring when they win the Premier League, right? Like City can pay that. Chelsea can pay that. And that's why sometimes people say, like, oh, they paid 62 million for Cucurella. Well, when he helps them to win stuff and it doesn't prevent them from buying other players, it doesn't really matter for some of those clubs if they for what we perceive as overpaying, right? Because overpaying, really, I don't care. If we pay 500 million for a player, but we still buy everybody else, what the hell do I care? You know what I mean? Like it's more about
somewhere right now with that comment, Daniel Levy is having a mild angina attack at the thought of 500 million on a player. He didn't want to pay 12 million for Jed Spence, let alone 500 million. Okay, so let's move on from that conversation. Let's a little bit more of a go to some of the questions in the chat. Kuva, I love this is why we love football, and welcome Richo63. Is the season over already with Liverpool dropping 4 points, City's title? I mean, it's a bit early, isn't it, Kuva?
Is it though? We've seen seasons where that there's so little points dropped by City. What do they have? They actually had a 100-point season once, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was very close to it if they wasn't.
They did. I'm sure they did.
So that's only dropping 14 points short of a maximum. So, yeah, 4 points is big in those terms.
No, Coover. We've only dropped 2 points, and we'll take 6 points off City this year.
That's true, but we'll take 4 off Liverpool as well, though, won't we?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. So, no, the season's not over. Come on, be serious. How can anybody say the season's over?
It's not over, but it's already an advantage that's uncomfortable for them because we're not talking about any minor club here. We're talking about a Manchester City team with world's best players in it who have just added 2 of the world's greatest strikers.
Let's look at the table, though. There's 4 teams on 6 points.
I think it's 2, isn't it?
Is it 2?
I think it's just them down the road. And
I thought there was another 1 or 2. I mean, we're on 4 points. 4 points more than we had when we played them teams last year in these positions. Let's not forget that. All
right, let me flip it. 2 points less than this stage last season.
No, but what I said against the teams that we played.
I'm joking. Look,
Nuno's a way better manager than Conte.
Nuno was manager of the month. If Conte doesn't get it, he's got to go. I mean, look, I listen. The reason I wanted to bring that up as a point was, I mean, the number of things I saw last night about, we're going to take Liverpool for second. They're in the mud, all this, and I sat there and thought to myself, it's almost as though every Spurs fan who was belittling Liverpool didn't watch us play against Chelsea. It just kind of felt like we'd forgotten what happened 24 hours earlier, where, yes, we got that goal in the end, but, for me, the signs aren't there that we're any better than last year. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it.
I disagree with you, Sav. No.
But, from what have you seen so far, and again, only 2 games, but what have you seen so far? Because that Chelsea performance was what I expected under Nuno. That was awful.
The biggest difference from the 2 games that we've played, and we can only talk about the 2 games that we've played, is the mentality of the team. We didn't give up. This time last year, if we'd have gone down to 1-0 at Chelsea, we'd have given up. We wouldn't have tried to battle back into the... That's the biggest difference I see at this point. That's why we are a better team, because we suddenly... I mean, it could all go wrong over the next 2 or 3 games, but at this particular point, I think we are stronger mentally. And that is...
But let me ask you a question then. And again, my job here, right, is to just throw out middle ground. I'm not saying I believe this, but yes, that's the case. And yes, we didn't give up against Chelsea, but wasn't it due to Chelsea not being able to finish their dinner rather than our ability to stay in the game?
That's how it goes. I mean, we had a couple of chances.
I get that, but was our mentality... I'm just asking, was our mentality actually that good? Because if Chelsea had finished their dinner, as my mate says, or put the biscuit in the basket, whichever terminology you want to use, they're 4-5-1 up, right? So, yes, we stayed in it, but I'm worried. If that's a Chelsea team with Aubameyang up front, for example, I'm worried that game is done and dusted, and all of a sudden, the fan base is actually going... Jesus Christ, we're awful. So
we could also look at it another way, saying ifs and buts and things like that. If we look back at last season, if we'd have played Arsenal when we were supposed to play them, we might not have finished 4th.
True.
There's a lot of ifs and buts with all this, and yes, I mean, how they missed that goal. Was it Havertz? How he missed that, we'll never know. But the point is, he did. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the game, which is all that matters, we got a point out of it, and we've got 4 points now. Let's not forget, we've got one of the best midfielders in the world in Højbjerg sat there. So I was just waiting for... No. Sorry, that was just a reactional thing for Scott.
He was...
No, he was terrible.
So bad against Chelsea.
No, he wasn't.
Huh?
He wasn't.
Seriously,
no.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. I'm being serious.
Oh, he was. He wasn't.
He was no worse. Bentancur was far worse, and everybody's saying how great a game he had.
Hang on, they were both
They
schooled
weren't
in
great,
how
but
to
I
be a
tell you
midfielder.
what, Højbjerg was better than Bentancur. He was not our worst player on the day.
I thought that both of them were absolutely schooled.
Yeah, the worst. But what you've got to look at with that game is we had two where they had three. We had Sessegnon on the left helping Højbjerg. We had Son in front of him. All them three were shit, but you look at the right-hand side, Kula wasn't great, but he's a better player than Sess. You've got Royal on the right. So you had a far stronger right-hand side, but the right-hand side of our midfield was the worst.
Listen, I just thought they were both absolutely horrendous. What it did show to me was, again, after the Southampton game, when we were saying things, I think like Scott last week, when we were saying things like keep the feet on the ground. And I remember saying that, look, yes, Bentancur had a good game against Southampton, but it's not games like that against Southampton that tell you how good a player is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's, can they go and do that against Chelsea?
Yeah.
And listen, it just showed, if Bentancur's there, Jorginho in the same mould is.
Yeah, that was
I don't want to. I've had this argument with Soren already, so I'll let you go with it with him, and I'm sure Soren and I are going to argue about it all season long.
No, I mean the thing is with them, I don't think any of us will disagree that if we can get a player that's better than him, that we need to, we need to upgrade on him. There's no debate in that whatsoever. But
it's comments like this though. It's like, you can still have a really bad game and score a goal.
Yeah,
right?
but
Harry Kane.
But I mean, one of the funniest things was that I think on Sunday after the game, one of the comments that was made was one point where Bentancur just gave it away, and then he kind of ran and did a tackle and got it back. And that was, so that's how great a football midfielder he is, because he went and won.
That was a terrible play by him. To give up the ball the way he did was awful.
And then I think it was you, Scott, who said, Højbjerg was kind of responsible for one of their goals, but then he got the goal back. No, maybe it wasn't.
I don't blame Højbjerg for the goals. Yeah. No,
it maybe was Adam. And
against Southampton, it was, but not.
Against Chelsea. We were talking about the Chelsea match.
Must have been Adam, not me. I didn't blame him.
But my argument to it is that with our midfield, when we're playing against three in the centre of midfield and we've only got two, we're going to get overrun with the midfielders we've got. Everyone's calling for Bissouma. Well, we know Bissouma's a damn good player, but is he good enough to actually shore our midfield up? I don't think he is on his own. We should have played a three in midfield.
Let me use that as a seamless link then. Kuva. Every man and his dog. I mean, we said this a million times last year, right? Not a million. Again, massive exaggeration, Savva. We said this a lot of times last year, right? That, okay, bring on another midfielder, shore up that midfield, make it look strong. And the question was always, well, who? We haven't got that player. If ever a game looked like it needed another body in midfield, just to be destructive, just to even be there, and be a mannequin, just to not give Kante and Jorginho the freedom of Stamford Bridge. It was that game. And we didn't do it once. And the excuse now can't be, well, who? What, Winks? What, Ndombe? No, he had Bissouma there.
Yeah.
Why didn't we do that to nullify Jorginho and Kante, who were exceptional?
For me, some of these questions can only be asked with a viewpoint to how fit were the players, because I cannot believe that Conte would not have Perisic and Bissouma in the team. It solves everything. Well, it doesn't solve everything, but it certainly helps. It was crying out for a stronger midfield. As soon as you see Kante on the opposition team sheet, your midfield's in trouble unless you do something about it. He is going to boss things. Jorginho's then going to get free reign to dictate play, which he did. So for me, three men in midfield. At the very least, at half time, I would, if it was me, I would have changed it at half time, if not before. Yeah. And I would have done some really unpopular decisions and taken Sonny and Kulusevski on and brought on Bissouma and Richarlison and gone for a 4-4-2 there. of 3-5-2. Sorry, condense the midfield, give them a war where they need it in the middle. Sonny and Kulusevski were both completely out of the game. They're taken out.
Yeah.
So you can't bring them back into the game without adding extra players to help them there. So it's either you push the game forward or change your style. And I thought it was a game that was set up for really ugly, win dirty, win ugly, and turn the midfield into a war zone, in which case Højbjerg does have a place then, because he's got very limited skill set, but he is that cannon fodder you want to send over the top of the French, on top of the French lines against the Germans, and get shot at a few times and just charge with him. And he did that. He literally dragged us into the game by just determination, just getting up there.
I think there was a term used on Sunday that Højbjerg is the garbage man. He's the guy that does the cleaning up, that does all the dirty work that nobody really is interested in doing. Now, there's been a lot of comments about, well, we should have brought Bissouma on instead of Højbjerg. We'd have been in the same situation. And then people would have been on Bissouma's back because we'd have still been overrun. We needed
it but Bissouma's better at handling that pressure than Højbjerg is. Now, he might not have been good enough, like you said, to...
If the rest of the team is having a shit one,
let me finish. He might not be able to do enough to keep us, like, to change the game. You're right, like, on his own. But he is. If we are going to stick to that two-man midfield, I think Bissouma would have done a better job, but he probably not enough.
Oh.
Like, what I don't understand about the subs, I don't agree with it, but I understand the idea that we're going to go with the same team because they won. Again, I don't agree with it, but fair enough. But at halftime, there was no reason not to make, like, there was nothing that Sessegnon did that made you think that keeping him on for the second half, he was going to get better, right? Like, how can Perisic not come on? If you want to say, well, Sessegnon played well against Southampton, so we'll start him here. Again, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. But I have no understanding how you keep Sessegnon on.
Oh, yeah, of course. That one, I agree. That's the other one that has to be changed,
Unless Scott, we said this last week, Scott. We said this, right? Do you remember on the show last week where we said, right, what 11 would people start for the Chelsea game? And my stance was very much, you put out your best players. This is Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. You put out your best players. But everyone went so over the top. We're going to win 3-0. We're going to romp it 4-1. Leave Sessegnon and Royal in there. What happened? Sessegnon and Royal were absolutely taken the piss out of by the wing-backs, by Reece James overlapping, by Loftus-Cheek, who isn't even a right wing-back, by Cucurella, Sterling. They had our wing-backs on toast. And this is the difference between sentiment and ruthlessness for me, is Conte at the beginning of that game should have gone, hang on, Chelsea are bloody good. They are very strong down their wing backs. Right, Perisic, you're in. All right, if there wasn't anyone other than Royal, but I just don't feel like I know it's not allowed to question anything that Conte does for some reason. But if ever a game, like Kuva said, needed 3 in the middle, 2 up front, completely stop Chelsea playing, it was that game. But we went 3-4-3. And even though he saw it didn't work, continued to put out the same thing second half. It baffled me. It really did.
That's the one thing that I was saying last night on Tottenham away. It could be something to do with Conte just weighing up the players, what he can get out of them when they are in that situation after the halftime team talk. Just gauge what he's got to work with for the rest of the season, or even the rest of his stay at Tottenham. Seeing what if Bentancur and Højbjerg can lift their game in the second half, and you learn by those harsh lessons, and the fact we actually got through it and had the character to snatch an undeserved point bodes well in some ways. That's as big a bonus, as big a positive as the fact that we were so utterly outplayed is a negative. So. For me, the points just is a good one in that instance.
Yeah. But just to counteract that, Kuva, do you not think when we've said Kuva's had a great game, he's been up and down that wing, he's been defending, he's been attacking. he did not do much defending at all. He didn't do much attacking neither. But you know what I mean? Chelsea came at us down the wings. They didn't really come through the middle. They came down the wings. Now, that's Sessegnon and Emerson Royal, but it's also Son and Kulusevski. Now, Son and Kulusevski had 2 really poor games, so that puts all the emphasis on Sessegnon and Royal. They can't cope, so therefore, you know, if we're not defending from the front, then we're just overrun down the wings. We can't just blame Sessegnon and Royal. We've got to also. No, I know you're not.
Yeah, look. I mean, look. Just to be clear, I wasn't just blaming them. But,
I know.
But it was what we said before the game was, if you were Chelsea, and we know they play this way anyway, you would say keep getting the ball out, and keep trying to take them on, and you had Loftus-Cheek. At one point, I thought Loftus-Cheek was going to twinkle toe his way through our whole back line. You remember when he got to the byline and just kept going and going and going. Yeah. And Cucurella, I thought, had a wonderful debut for them. I thought he had a really good game.
Loftus-Cheek was able to do it because our defense just kept backing away. Like every time he ran at them, they just run back equally as fast away from him, right? Like,
but this is what I'm saying, where we didn't have that defending from Kulu and from Sonny. You know, they were poor in that sense that they were like, no, I'm not going to run. But do you think our team actually looks tired?
I thought we looked really, really unfit, if I'm honest. Everyone kept saying,
I just think we look so tired.
Well, everyone kept saying about welcome Eugene, by the way. Everyone kept saying, a Conte pre-season, we're going to look fit. I thought we looked leggy. I thought we looked seconds to every ball. And apparently, from what everyone was telling me the week before, that Chelsea were terrible against Everton. This is why we was going to win. They looked really fit. Yeah. They look like their stamina levels up. Scott, what do you think? Just before I come to you, Eugene.
We spent so much time talking about how it was a great time to play Chelsea, right? Like, how many times did you hear that? Maybe it's a great time to play us, because maybe we're still stuck in a little bit of the sentimentality to last year, and we're not, you know what I mean? Whereas in later, we'll have our top players. Maybe we're spending too much time rewarding players for last season. So I think, looking back and talking here, it seems like maybe it was a good time to play Chelsea, but maybe it was a really good time for Chelsea to play us, because like we said, guys like Perisic, if they're not up to speed, and Basuma, if we can't put them on when we need them to because they're not fit or they're still getting over COVID or whatever it is, then that, I mean, like you said, I'd much rather play Sessegnon for 70 minutes than Perisic, right? And so maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I saw Sessegnon seem to be running. He just can't do anything. Like Emerson runs, he works hard. He just doesn't do anything when he works hard. So,
do you think we should be playing the teams when they're actually playing well then? I mean, I could just see us playing Man United this weekend and losing 4-0 to them.
Do you know what I was thinking, right? I was thinking the other day, I bet Man United wish they had Spurs. I know that's the old mentality, but it's just, look, let me bring in, is it Eugene? Am I saying your name right? Yep.
Right.
What did you make of the Chelsea game? I mean, it was daylight robbery that we got a point, but what did you make of the overall performance and the tactics?
We were spanked left, right, center, right. But somehow or another, we came back with a point. How I see it is very simple, right? Somehow or another, we go to Chelsea all this time. We don't show up, right? And we didn't show up again last Sunday, right? They pressed us. We came out the first 5-10 minutes. We did show a bit of, oomph there. But after that, that game went downhill quickly, right? They were honest, like, I don't know, bees on honey or something like that. Every time where the ball went to any of our players, they were like 2 players on 1 player. It's like we couldn't get out at all. Somehow, I don't know whether it was a tactical problem or whether our players were just not mentally there.
Yeah.
But somehow or another, miraculously, we got out the first half with a 1-0 scoreline.
Yeah.
Okay. With that 1-0 scoreline, I guess maybe Conte got into the dressing room, maybe had a few good words with them, right? And told them that we're still in it. We're still in it, and we still have to fight for it. the only thing what I see now in our team or maybe our squad, right? Last season, don't forget, guys, we played that same 11, or more or less the same 11 that we had last season, continuously down, right? And when every time last season when Conte was in this kind of scenario, right, he looked at the bench and he was going, "Who am I going to put on?" Right? Scarlett, right? Another youngster, or someone that I can't trust to play the way I want to play. But now, whether we were leggy or tired and all that, but I don't think so. It's just that we just couldn't get out of second gear. Somehow or another, we couldn't. We when we had the ball, they were honest. We couldn't get it out of there, right? But at least we kept on trying, right, to the last end. Of course, how we got the
can I ask, Eugene, let me ask you, and then everyone else answer this after Eugene. I keep hearing that we didn't give up and that we kept trying and we keep pushing, but these are, I'm going to be really blunt, and this will probably get me in trouble with a lot of Spurs fans for calling me negative. I feel like these are traits that I would associate if Aston Villa were playing Chelsea, or, you know, to say, oh, they didn't give up. Like Palace against Liverpool last night. They were under the cosh for 90 minutes, and you could say, well done, they didn't give up, they kept going. But we're Tottenham Hotspur with Antonio Conte. We're a Champions League team. Should it be enough that we just didn't give up? Because for me, we looked absolutely shocking. Sorry, just the truth.
No, I understand it. Savva. But the thing is that, imagine, we had Nuno before Conte, right? The way we played. We had Jose before Conte, the way we played. It's not to say that I'm like happy that the performance that we put up yesterday. To tell you the truth, I was doing a watch along with another Chelsea fan, right? And I was like going, my face was like blanked. I was going, I couldn't react to what our players were doing. We were just having 28 to 30% of ball possession, right? We were being overrun by them. We were being outplayed by them. Their one touch was cutting us through like a hot knife through butter. And I was going, okay, what can I say? But in the end of the day, I think the sideline tactics distracted a lot of Conte's attention, right?
Okay.
And from there onwards, right, we changed once we got on Richarlison. Come on, we have to admit, when we brought on Perisic, Richarlison on, and Bissouma, certain dynamics did change a bit, right? Conte did change his tactic a bit to get the equalizer or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, right? We fell back to a 4-2-4. That's what the commentators were saying, 4-2-4, right? And when they went down back to the 4-2-4, I was going, shit, Ben Davies and Eric Dyer can't play in that position. They can't play in that formation. But we got the equalizer. But when I saw what happened when they got their second goal, I was going, why are all the Spurs players on the left-hand side, right? The whole right-hand side was wide. So that is so blatant that our defense needs an upgrade, right?
It does. It does. And Eugene, let me bring Kuva in here. It absolutely does. Kuva, I think you might like this one. Lazy Limey, great name, by the way, great name, has said, when are we going to admit Chelsea have more quality in their team and Tuchel had better tactics and Conte used the wrong players and was slow making changes? The window has been mediocre. Now,
nothing to argue with
that wrong?
No, spot on.
True, so true.
I reckon
Move
someone
on, do better the next time. Move on, do better the next time. I mean, when it comes to the defending, you even have to include Hugo Lloris in this, because when it becomes the shoddiness of both goals we conceded, it's a communication problem. Now, your goalkeeper has to be very much a part of that. If there are players out of position, there's players lacking in the middle, they should be shouting. Davies should have been shouting. You've got to get players back into position if they've drifted out of place. Dyer should have had more about him to look over his shoulder, have a glance and say, we're outnumbered there. I've got to be wary of that. Instead, he just put pushed himself even further out right for their second goal. It was bad. It was really bad. Now, Chelsea didn't have any of that. They were organised. The only things we got right, against Chelsea was, well, first of all, look at the things that we did the same as last season. Started with the same team from last season, really, wasn't it? There was none of the new players were playing at the start. Yeah. So we got exactly the same thing we were expecting from last season. It's only when the fresh blood came on, things changed. That we had the ability to change around. Conte could change the shape of the team and some of the personnel. That at least was something to be positive about. So even though we didn't deserve the draw, we did get the draw by changing things. And that is the difference between the likes of Crystal Palace going to Chelsea and saying they tried hard, well done. They still come out with a loss. We came out with at least a point. And that's what a good team should be doing when they play poorly. Still manage that point. Still find a way when it looks like it's impossible. You still get something from it. Liverpool won titles doing this. So Man United used to as well. Your 1-0 victories don't play that well. But it is based on defending well. And that's one thing we are not doing. And it's one thing we haven't addressed in the transfer window.
Okay, I'm going to come to you, Soren. Just before I do, there are still 173 of you in the chat. Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting as many people, if I'm really honest. I thought a Tuesday afternoon. But listen, we'll keep going for as long as people want to keep going for. I've had 8 subscribers since this channel started. Not ever. I mean, today. So if anybody would like to give me an additional 5 before the end of the show, I'd be very grateful. Please keep hitting that like button and go and follow all of these various different characters that are on your screen on their YouTube shows, their Instagram, their Twitter handles, whatever they've got, Facebook, whatever they do, their WhatsApps, I don't know, just get in contact with them. Soren, the THFC Caveman, here's a good one for you, I think. I think this, if ever a comment suited a person, it was this. My analogy of our window is we were promised steaks, but they gave us burgers. I won't complain because burgers are good, but I still want a juicy steak. Oh, yeah.
First thing, you lot are so negative. Yeah, Jesus Christ. I will just answer that by saying I prefer burgers to steak anyway, so that's fine by me.
I'm shocked, I've got to say.
No, I'm not a steak man, to be honest with you. Right.
You're a steak man, aren't you?
Yeah.
And burgers. Do I look like I'm throwing anything down?
Yeah. First thing, I don't think we did start with the wrong team. I don't think that was I think the problem was Conte didn't change it soon enough. That was the biggest problem. We could see the problems coming before the scored. So them changes should have been made a little bit earlier. I think somebody said we should have brought Basuma on after 25 minutes. That's where we went wrong. We didn't make the changes quick enough. Should we have started with the new players? No, I don't think we should have, personally, because I think it's too soon to start chucking some. I mean, Perisic is a little bit different. If Perisic had been on to start with, I don't think any of us would have said that shouldn't have happened. Basuma, if Basuma had started with Bentancur, as much as everyone thinks it would have been great, I don't think it would have made a difference unless we had 3 midfielders in there. That's where we just weren't strong enough in midfield. It's one of those where you look and you're going to play Chelsea and you think we need to pack our midfield. It's almost as if everybody can see it, but we never do it. There's certain times when you think just park the bus, because as much as a lot of us don't want to admit it, we're going to see a lot of that type of football like we saw on Sunday, where we are shit, but we steal a point.
This is what worries me.
Yeah, but let's put it this way then. If we have a season of doing that and we finish second, or we won the league, or we won a cup, none of us remember really how we got there, as long as we've done it. And, let's look at that shitty team from down the road. There was that song, 1-0 to the, if we've got to play poor, we've got to play poor. But That's how teams win leagues and things like that. But when they play poor, they don't lose.
No, I listen. I hear you. I hear you. I just feel it feels like it's a trend now that you're not allowed to criticize anything that Antonio Conte ever does because he's Antonio Conte. The way I see it is, I'm sure if you watched Man City YouTube channels, there are still fans that would be annoyed at things that Pep Guardiola does on a weekly basis, and he wins them multiple trophies and league titles. But for me, it was just more that game was crying out for a three-man midfield. Yeah. And we didn't do it. And it wasn't that he didn't do it from the start, because you can say, okay, cool. Didn't do it from the start. That played into Tuchel's hands because we know Tuchel is a good tactician.
Yeah.
But not to change it at half time was even more baffling for me. Yeah. But when he sent the players out, I was expecting, when they're 2 or 3 on the sideline doing their little hop and a jump, getting ready to come on. No one. And then the pattern continued again. And it was like, is this what we're going to see, Scott? Is this what we're going to see from Conte? Come rain nor shine, that this is the tactics he is going to deploy no matter what our opposition are doing.
I mean, I hope not. Last year, I gave him a bit of a pass. I would say, I'm not going to criticize him because he came in November, December, right? He didn't have a preseason. He had one January transfer window. So some of the moves when he was doing these things last year, I said, I'm not going to criticize him for it now because he doesn't have the team to do it. But even though he still has Levy and Paratici, and that's always going to hamstring him, I do think he has the summer. So he should be called into question now. And again, calling him into question doesn't mean we're saying he's the crappiest manager ever, right? Doesn't mean we want him sacked. You're allowed to question some of the things that he does, like you could for anyone. And it doesn't mean we're just trying to figure out why he's doing it, right? And one of the things, sorry, it's taking a little tangent, just that was said before though. My concern is if we're saying, good teams win when they play poorly and good teams get a point, right? That's true. That's true. But my concern is we didn't just play poorly because people had bad games. We played poorly because of problems in our squad, right? Like, it's not like Sessegnon and Royal had bad games. They're bad player for where we want to be. They're not good enough.
Correct.
So that's why I get a little concerned when I hear it is true. Getting the point at Chelsea is a good result.
Yeah.
And playing bad and getting a point, that's how good teams win. My concern is we didn't just play bad because our players had a poor day. I'm concerned that we played bad because we have major issues still in our squad.
We're just bad, right, Scott?
Yeah.
We're just bad.
But
That's the scary thing.
You also look at it slightly like this, Scott, that we know Sessegnon's not up to it. We know Emerson's not up to it. Had we had that extra person in midfield to help these players a little bit, then maybe they would have had a slightly better game. That's the problem, that we were just pulled all over the pitch.
But I also don't think we have that player. Like, I think if our midfield 3 would have been Basuma, Bentancur, and Højbjerg, that's better. I don't think that's good enough.
No, but I think we would have seen a totally different game had we gone to that system. We wouldn't have been as overrun if we'd have had that. Now, you think of them 3. Put Perisic in there instead of Sessegnon, which I think we all agree it should have been done sooner. And then possibly brought Son off, or Kulachevsky, say, but had that more solid midfield, we would have looked a better team.
I would worry what we were doing going forward. Because
we wouldn't been quite as worried with what was going backwards. That's the difference.
The point, I guess, is if we have, and I know he's such an easy player, but for example, if we have Milinkovic-Savic in there instead of one of those 3, then you have a player who can help defensively and shore up, like you said, and go forward. And that's why, yes, I think we could have looked better. I think it might have been a 1-1 draw instead of 2-2, right? But I guess I think you're right. It probably would have looked better, but I think long term it's still a concern. That's kind of my point, right, Soren? Is that I'm saying if we're looking at this as not just the one result, but going forward with the squad we have, my concern is that we're going to see more of these kind of poor results, poor play
I think we're going to see a lot of
But
it.
guys, just quickly, can I ask? The thing is, though, we've got fans like big up to yourself, Brian. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but fans saying it wasn't that we played poorly. I mean, if that wasn't playing poorly, I don't know what playing poorly is, because I said this yesterday on my show in the afternoon. Had Jose Mourinho or Nuno had thrown out that performance, the daggers would be out.
I think he's kind of agreeing with what I was saying, Savva. I think he's saying that it wasn't just that we had a bad day at the office. I think he's saying like the players aren't good enough. That's why we had the bad day.
True, but it was poor. Like it was poor.
Yeah. No, I think he's probably just trying to.
You can be. Again, I watched Arsenal. No, I didn't. That wasn't the game. I watched Liverpool Palace, and you could say that Liverpool had all the ball, right? But Palace was still set up, very hard to beat, really well organised. Every man knew their job. They knew when to break. So there's a difference. They didn't have the quality that Liverpool had on show, but they still looked like a team, like a cohesive unit. I felt we looked like 11 players that had just been thrown together, rather than what the idea of it was to reward the players that did well at the end of last season. Is there anything in that?
Let me throw something against you there with that though, Savva. Last year when we played Liverpool and City, we virtually played the same system, the same players, and we had the same amount of possession roughly against us to us. Mm-hmm. But the thing that worked differently was our breaks worked with Son and Kane.
Yep.
That was the difference. Now, had that worked again, we wouldn't be sat here with the same tactics. The only difference was it didn't work and we were poorer. But against Liverpool and Chelsea with the same tactics, the same team,
Can I tell you the difference? I'll tell you the difference, though. Liverpool and Man City are two teams that absolutely dominate the ball, play high up the pitch and have a back four.
Yeah.
Chelsea do not. Chelsea play a completely different formation, which doesn't allow for teams to counter-attack them. Yeah. They're free centre-backs. You don't often see as high up as you would see Van Dijk and Diaz and Laporte, etc.
We did have chances to counter against Chelsea. It's just that for some reason, again, we did the old system where we suddenly get up the pitch and then we slow it down.
True. I just felt that Conte was absolutely taught a lesson on how to play his own formation.
Yeah.
By Tuchel.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, though, better quality of players.
I agree, of course. But that comes down to Kuva. That brings us down to full circle with have we done enough in this window? If we're saying like we haven't looked at a right wing back. Well, why the F not? Yeah. You know, we haven't looked at a creative midfielder. Well, why the F not? Because again, when their midfield got the ball, Kante and Jorginho, the difference is they both drive forward with it. I think
the trouble is our squad was left to fester so badly that we needed so many players to come in one window that it's impossible. So even if we do get the extra 2 or 3 great players coming in, it's still possibly not going to be enough to get us to win at Chelsea. Yeah, that's the reality.
Kuva, jumping back again, 5 games probably last year. City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. That last game we played them. Nobody was crying out that we needed better players when we scored them. You know, when we came out with.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we were.
No.
We were.
But the majority of fans all they were bothered about is that we'd schooled them and we'd come away with the results and how well we'd played in those games because we came.
But we have to get away from focusing so much. Like, I know the City result is fun and the Liverpool result is fun, and it's great to beat those teams, but we have to kind of move away from those being great because we had those great results against them and we finished 20 plus points behind both of them, right? Yeah, and I know why you bring it up, but
the reason we finished behind them by that many points is because we dropped points against the teams we shouldn't have been dropping points against. And if you remember in those games when we dropped the points, it wasn't necessarily that we were getting battered. We were losing 1-0. We weren't scoring. That was the problem.
So let me throw this at you, Soren. See, now I get this argument completely. And again, before anyone calls me negative, I'm just doing my job here, right? Let's assume, Yeah, sorry, Eugene. I have to caveat everything before anything I say gets clipped and out of context.
I know.
Let's assume that we tidy up the results against the Wolves and the Burnley types, right? There's still nothing to say that we're going to get the great results this year against City. Everyone's almost talking about it like, well, don't worry, we beat City twice and drew with Liverpool twice, so all we need to do is this. This year, we could lose all 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because this year, I mean, if you look at, let's look at the Man City game last year. Let's look at the second game that we won 3-2. Now, absolutely brilliant. And during the moment, you don't care how you've played, and it's just, we won, we got there. Now, in the cold light of day, break it down. It was the ultimate. It was the ultimate show in class how they are so superior to us that we literally had 10 men behind the ball and just counterattacked. Yeah. Now that's great, but you're not winning leagues doing that. You're not going to close the gap on the top teams by playing like that week in, week out. And that's what's shown me that this window, we have not bought the players that take you away from that and take you on to being a team that's a lot more comfortable with the ball and saying, you know what, we'll actually have more possession than you, Chelsea, as opposed to the, 70-30? Or so that, for me, that's the worry.
I mean, the one thing I'll say on that is that I do fully agree with you. That there's no getting away from that. But the way Conte seems to set these teams out, or setting us out, is that's the way he's going to play. That we're going to soak up as much as we can, and then we're going to attack. But I'm going to have to go now, Savva, because the wife's tell me I've got to get tea ready. Right. So, and I'm not going to upset her as much as I don't mind upsetting you. Or no chance with her.
Nice meeting up with you, Celso.
Yeah, but look, I mean, let's hope in a couple more games, things are looking a little bit more peachy. You know, the next 4 games, definitely 12 points. Drop to I wasn't far out. As long as we don't lose against the next couple, then I'm not bothered. But, you know, great show as always. Thanks for having me on, and big up to you.
Sorry.
Always fun, Soren. We don't know what to say.
Eugene, let me come to you with this question. Sorry, more of a statement than a question. It's the old saying, you're only as good as the opposition allow you to be. I don't buy into that. Do you?
Come on. To be honest, right? We still have Dyer. We still have Davis. Somehow or another, just because of last season, right? Conte brought the best out of them. Doesn't mean this season Conte will still bring the best out of them, right? We might get a few performances. They will be up there, right? And it shows our level, our standard of defense that we have, right? And we are not solving it at the moment during this transfer window, right? And what that statement was saying is more or less that, yeah, it's true, right? If we stepped up and if we turned up, right, and showed a bit more against Chelsea on Sunday, we could have been hammered, right? If we played a more open game, we could have been hammered. Actually, we should have been hammered in the first half, right? We should have been down 3-0, 4-0 in the first half. If Sterling took the chance, right, and if a couple more chances, they took it, right, could have been 2-0 down or 3-0 down within the first half an hour. Then what would have Conte done? Would have Conte actually put in Bissouma and try to make changes? Would he put in Perisic and take out Sessegnon as early as possible to try to make the changes, right? But what our opponents did to us on Sunday is a lesson to us, right? It's to tell the fans that we are still not that good yet, right?
No, I agree.
Yeah. I agree. And at the moment now, and we always know Harry Kane doesn't reach the standard that he reaches like somewhere in September, October, November. He's a slow starter, all right? We always said, we always know Harry Kane usually doesn't even score goals in August, remember? Right?
Why is he a slow starter though? Why isn't it a worry? Like for a player as good as he is, who had as good a pre-season as he has, why doesn't he come flying out the blocks?
Maybe because he's been overplayed.
Yep.
Right? He's been Son and Kane has been our main strike force for the past 5 years. They've been playing games up to 40 games to 50 games per season without having a rest. That's why now Richarlison coming in, right? Hopefully that will alleviate some stress out of them, give them some time to rest. And maybe this is the season where Conte will say that, okay, Sonny, right? Bench, rest. Let Richie take over for a while, right? Even Kane, rest, bench, maybe Sonny and Kane plays, right?
Mhm.
But we've never seen that happen at all. For the past 5 years, right? We always seen if Kane is even 80% fit, he's on the pitch, right?
Understood.
Yeah. So we are so dependent on these two. So that's why our beginning of season, I think these two players are, even with the preseason and all that, and now with Conte's extra strict regimen of fitness and all that, sometimes it goes both ways. Sometimes you build up your fitness to a certain level, but sometimes it actually drains you. It'll give you more injuries and all that. But let's see how it goes. Like I said, to me, it's just the second game of the season.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
just the
I tell you
second
what,
game.
when people say be patient, it's only 2 games. Listen, this is what YouTubing is about, right? We're here to analyze after every game. And if we didn't, we'd be YouTubing once every 3 months after we've played 10 games. So just quickly, I really do want to bring this up. And I promised myself, guys, I would not bring up any negative comments about me. And now, whilst this comment itself isn't negative, Crimson Cad 3, you are, what can I say? I appeared on a show last week with Fuad and Toby, Tapping Tobes. And in the comment afterwards, you were one of the first people to go, why on earth do you have Savva coming on your shows? We don't want his negativity. We don't want to watch it. This guy boos our players. So Crimson Cad, if you don't like me, kindly remove yourself from the stream. I'm not going to say anything rude. Kindly remove yourself, or don't bitch about me when I can clearly see it on YouTube. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much. Sorry, Scott. Go.
I was going to say, you had this comment up. There was another comment that said Chelsea played the game of their lives and couldn't beat us. Like, they didn't, though. That's what's concerning. They played well, but it wasn't like they played because Jorginho ran through our whole team with an amazing, with amazing runs and kicked in a worldie. Like, they played well because it was easy for them to. We gave the ball back. Like, it's not like they played all the greatest games of their life. They took exactly what we gave them. So they looked good because in part they are good, in part because they are because we were so poor. It wasn't like, the United game, you might say, I don't think it's 100% this, but when Ronaldo scored those 3 goals, you could say Ronaldo played great to beat us, right? That was a great individual performance by him. But people like acting like, oh, don't worry, United and City and Liverpool wouldn't have beat them the way Chelsea played. Of course they could have. Like, it wasn't some worldly, we were just bad luck. Chelsea played so tough. Don't worry, guys. We were awful. And again, we were awful, not because we're having a bad day, not because Chelsea was having an amazing day, but because we have issues at this squad that the majority of the fan base, at least those who are willing to admit that the team does have issues at times, saw.
And Scott, this was a Chelsea team as well without a centre forward. My worry is that team, look, ifs, buts, maybes, if your aunt, your uncle and all that, if that team had an Aubameyang, if that team had a Harry Kane, that game is a different scoreline. And that for me is, yes, we can say we stuck in and we grinded it out. But for me, we didn't get a point because we were decent and ground it out and up the tempo. We got a point because they were unable to finish any of their 16 chances. And they had like only 3 chances on target because they don't have a centre forward. And that was worrying.
That's what people say. They only had 3 chances on target. Well, Havertz missed a chance that probably all 3 of us could have put in the net, and it missed the target. That wasn't because of our great defense. That's because of his terrible play.
I mean, I actually disagree with Scott to an extent there, because I think Chelsea did play really well.
I thought
really,
I just feel they didn't have like a
you
10 out
couldn't
of
have
10
tucked
game.
away
Like,
Havertz chance.
Oh,
I don't think they had a game that
some of
was-
those players I thought were getting towards that sort of stand. What they were lacking was the cutting edge, as Savva rightly pointed out. If they did have a quality centre forward, I think we would have been on the end of an almighty battering. It's not like we didn't have some of our best players out. When the fact is they can totally contain Harry Kane and Son Heung-min, you're talking about quality players performing at a very high standard. They dominated us. It wasn't just it isn't just us playing badly. Them playing like that made us play badly. People could not get time on the ball. There were not passes available to people like Bentancur. You have to give Chelsea credit for playing a hell of a game against us.
Sorry, maybe it came off the wrong way, Kuba. I just meant like Chelsea played that way because that's their quality. Like I just meant it wasn't like this was like a extreme game from them. They, like you said,
but it was so much better than what they did the week before, though, mate.
No, they were, but they're terrible sometimes. I don't know. I just meant like it's not like this. We can just throw it in the bin because it was a one-off game from Chelsea. It was we were poor all on our own merits as well, and they made
the thing was Scott for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, I've just been hearing how Chelsea are crap. They're falling off a cliff. You know, we're leaving them in our rear view mirror. We're so much better than them. Our midfield is better than theirs. Their defense is crap now. It's just like these are the sort of things where I just think Spurs fans just keep your feet on the ground just a little bit. Let's wait until we have physically overtaken them. And I don't mean every other game in the Premier League. I mean, wait till we finish above them in the league. Yeah, wait till we get deeper into cup competitions than they do. Wait till we get into 2 cup finals a season like they do. You know, it's just so... There were so many people going into that game with the belief that we'd already won. And whilst belief is good, it's not accurate. Belief is something...
We're above them in the table at the moment. Almost there, mate. Keep believing.
You know, it's a game where we said that if we win, it really would have shown us where we are, shown that we... So now that we have drawn and played poorly, I think it's the same way. It's a game that shows us where we are. It shows us that we still... Which I think we all probably knew. It's a game that shows us that we need more, that we aren't where a lot of fans might have thought that we were, even though we've made some additions, individual quality additions in the transfer window. We're still not there.
Yeah. Again, look, I get a lot of people will say, look, you can't do everything in one window, which I hear every window. So I don't know why it's always one window when it's every bloody year. But okay, we can't solve every problem in one window. The worrying thing for me is that we didn't solve the key things in one window. Rather than solving everything, the key things. Now, the second thing is it's okay to not play well and to grab a point. I've got no problem with that. Great result in the end. As I titled it on my YouTube channel the next day, great result, woeful performance. The worry is that for everyone who thought we were going to go there and batter them, we didn't even keep up with them. Like the football was just another level from what we see. And that was the worry for me. It wasn't that we got a draw and it could have gone either way and it was end to end. It was a domination. And that's worrying for me. I'm sorry, guys. I know I'll get called negative for that. But that was like watching a Nuno team. That was like watching us in yesteryear.
Yeah, Savva, it's so simple as that we didn't turn up, right, for the game, right? Somehow or another, we hyped it up so much, right? And this is always the Spurs fan base. When we ever hype up something like that, right, and being overconfident, and somehow or another, our team never turn up, right? It's always like that. I don't know whether this kind is a kind of a curse that we have, right? Or maybe all our fan base should be negative, and maybe we'll win the league. We're going to lose next week to Spurs, right? All will say we're going to lose to Spurs next week, lose to Wolves next week, and we'll smash them 5-0. So maybe that's what it has to be. But when we come to scenarios like this, right, being a Spurs fan, of course, when we beat Southampton, we already knew that game that Southampton weren't all there, right? After the first goal that they scored, when we came back, we smacked them,
Yeah.
Okay, but they weren't all there, right? And somehow or another, when we take our positives, we take it overboard. Okay. But when we saw Chelsea not performing too well against Everton, and we started to go, they don't look too good, right? They are this, they are that. But don't forget, guys, when they go back to Stamford Bridge, right? It's their home. It's like when Spurs goes and play, think about the game that we had against Arsenal last season, right? All of us Spurs fans, right? We said we're going to smack them, right? Even before they stepped into the stadium, right? They already mentally lost the game, right? Maybe Spurs in Stamford Bridge, we have that problem, that mental part that we can't cross, right? Which at least on Sunday, we were being spanked, right? Left, right, center. But we still got away with the point. That's the positive. But if we maintain this kind of performance, where are we going to be? That's my fear, right? If we play like this against Wolves, we're going to get spanked by Wolves, right? But we're at home. Then that dynamic changes again. You see?
Of course. But is anyone actually worried about playing Wolves? Whilst I don't want to disrespect them, that for me should be a 3-0 win.
Them and Southampton are the perfect teams for us to play against because they don't have the firepower up front to hurt us, so we can play loose at the defense, and our front three can be the flat track bullies and run over.
Yeah. But the thing is that, guys,
we can always lose to anyone, but
is Conte?
Sorry, guys, I just want to read out this super chat, please, if that's all right. I just want to read out the super chat. So Joe Edwards, thank you very much for the super chat. The money does go to charity, so thank you very much for that. I'm also conflicted with the super chat because I just can't agree with the super chat, but I am appreciative. I think if anyone thinks we have a class team that need to gel, then we just have to show a rerun of what just happened at Stamford Bridge. That's not a class team.
We've got parts of one.
Yeah, we're not a class team until we get rid of Dyer and Davis. That's all.
Royal, Sessegnon, Højbjerg, Dyer, Davis. You can't have those 5 in your 11 and call it a class team for me. Sorry.
Unfortunately, you could even add Lloris in some ways. Although he's a great shot stopper still. You look at those goals we conceded, he's part of that lack of communication at the back.
And to tell the truth, right, while I was watching that game on Sunday, I don't understand our corner defense. We were marking empty spaces while all the other Chelsea players were running around. What was all that about? You get what I'm saying? And how the hell did that ball reach Koulibaly for him to smack it? And he did. Was it Royal in front of him?
Don't forget, Eugene. We get in the specialists to help with this now. Like the same as that specialist to get us the naming rights on the stadium.
They must be working out of the same office.
But again,
I was so perplexed about it.
Just quickly, for all the people that are saying that some of this chat is negative, I'll just take you back to 1 week ago when Scott M and I were called negative for our predictions of Chelsea v Tottenham. All week I stuck by 2-2.
I said 2-1.
Huh?
I said 2-1 and we'd win.
Oh, sorry. I was safety in numbers. I was trying to get you bullied as well as me.
No. I'm just saying it doesn't matter what you say, Savva. You know that, right? I predicted we'd win.
We all lost money.
The funny thing was, right, all week I was going 2-2. I said it's a tough place to go, and I was called negative, toxic, dream bigger, believe we're better. When we do draw 2-2, I still get people coming on the show going, "You're negative." It's like, well, hang on. If I was right, how is it negative? Like, you can't be negative if you're right. You can be honest and you could be realistic. Let's move this on, guys.
Yeah, because you predicted a very low quality 2-2, but we got a great one.
Yeah. Big up CQ. Yeah, I know zonal defense. But I don't know. I don't understand. I know zonal defense.
We have the super leader Eric Dyer back there, right? That's why he plays on our team, because he's such an amazing leader. So
yeah,
Eric Dyer, he's better than him.
Kim still hates him. So do I.
I mean, guys, on a serious note, it is really, really, really worrying, isn't it? How bad we are defending set pieces. And again, it's one of those things that, look, this is just analysing, right? It's not negative. We're just analysing. When you look at what's needed in that back three, forget the wing backs for a minute. We've done them to death, right? When you look at the back three, realistically, balls coming into the box should be dealt with, not easily because some players got great crosses, but relatively well most of the time. But for as good as Romero is, that's not his game. That he is not that dominating centre back in the air that's going to go and clear everything. Eric Dyer has never been his game. He's not good in the air, and he is not commanding at all. And Ben Davies, he's not that player. So it's another one that when people are saying, Kuva, that, you know, Davies and Dyer are really good. They nearly had flawless seasons last year and they should play every game and they're great, blah, 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 new contracts. It doesn't tell the full story, does it? It doesn't tell us.
Somebody actually said that word flawless, didn't they?
Last night, that's what I'm saying. Somebody in the chat last night said Davies and Dyer had a near flawless season. And it worries me. It worries me that there are fans that used their eyes, and that was the emotion that came to mind was flawless. Kuva,
maybe they mean flawless in that every time they climb the stairs to go higher, they fall through the lack of floor.
No flaws, right?
Just before you answer, Kuva, Joe is back. He said, "My bad. Maybe not a class team, but I'm used to saying it because I'm a City fan." Rub it in, Joe. Rub it in. Thank you for the super chat. Joe, come on and tell us, why do you think Spurs keep beating you? And are we going to do it again this year, or are you confident of playing us? Kuva, what do we need in that back three?
Talent. Simple as that. Talent. Just fill the team with intelligent players that want to win. That'll be a good start.
Yeah. You need a screener, right?
I think the attitude's right with a lot of the players now, but the intelligence isn't, and the talent isn't. So, as far as I'm concerned, get a absolutely dominant in the air central defender to replace Dyer with. There are lots of those about. We really missed out on Sven Botman, I think. He would have filled the role ideally. Davis is not good enough. He's been much improved like he was last season. Doesn't mean he's good enough. He's still not a top 4 sort of player. He's not somebody you're going to be thinking, oh, let's sign him on for that extra 3 years because he can help get us to a league title in a couple of years. No, he isn't. So let's stop pretending some of these players are better than they actually are. Some of them are pretty much plodders that have got lucky, managed to fit into a team with better players around them a few times and rode the wave. Now, if we really want to go somewhere, quality. Go out, get quality, put the bloody offer in, get it accepted, and then if the player turns you down, that's one thing. You can't always help that. Offer them decent wages. I mean, we're supposed to be this big club. So buy players that fit a big club.
What about this, Kuva? Because I remember last season saying that I would have loved to have taken Joachim Andersen. I thought he was a really good centre-half, spreads the play well, but he's good in the air. Would he be the sort of player that we could have done with?
Sorry, which one?
Joachim Andersen of
yeah. Good player. Very good player. Yeah,
I thought we were linked to him, right, last season?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just never really got it.
If he's not within our price range, then we might as well forget it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he would have been a big improvement.
Okay. Scott, moving on with this. I don't want to read this out, but I'm going to. The Vag Maniac. Just brilliant. Great. I mean, well done to you. Has said, I personally think we as fans need to be a bit more patient with what Conte does. This is his first full season with us. Remember how long it took Klopp and Pep to build a team they both got today. Now, Scott, my question to you is, first of all, I mean, if I had £1 for every time I've been told to be patient since Daniel Levy took over Tottenham, I would be a billionaire and wouldn't bother with YouTubing. Second of all, the difference for me is I seem to remember that in their first seasons, in their first windows, I remember Klopp and Pep actually bringing in players that went straight into that first 11 and made them much, much better, as opposed to lots of free transfers, loans, players for the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things, and I know you'll probably know where I'm going to go with it. But the first thing is very clear. I heard, and somebody else said earlier, we're just at the start of a rebuild. If that's true, fair enough. Harry Kane is 29. Heung-min Son is 30. So if we're at the start of a rebuild and we're waiting 2 or 3 years, they're 32 and 33. So now we're going to have our two best players, two players who are arguably top 5 in the Premier League, are going to be hanging around for 2, maybe 3 years waiting for us to get better. Like that's, and then Hugo Lloris, right? He's 35. As Kuba said, he's already starting to fall off. So now we're going to have to replace him. Like that's the problem. If you're going to say have patience and you're going to say we're in the start of a rebuild, well, when Klopp came in, he sold Liverpool's best player, Coutinho, for 150 million or 200 million, whatever it was, right? So if we're in a rebuild, then are we not also saying then sell Son and Kane? Because why are we keeping them around to waste their best years on a rebuild rather than using that money to bring players in? People also say, I remember somebody said, oh, Klopp didn't bring anyone in. Pep didn't bring anyone in their first year. Then you go back and look at like I can't remember all the players, but it was like, well, not Wijnaldum and Van Dijk came in very early. Like they brought in players that are core to Liverpool and City's team. How many players are? I'm not complaining about bringing in Perisic. He's great. But is he core to the team if we're saying that this is a rebuild? No. Longley is on a loan. Is he core to the team if it's a rebuild? No. Forster, obviously not core to the rebuild. So that's kind of the problem, is if we're saying that this is a rebuild, not my first choice, but again, fair enough. Let's rebuild. Okay, let's rebuild. Then you better be looking at selling at least one of Kane or Son to bring in the proper players that are going to be core of a team going forward, because Kane and Son aren't a core of a rebuilding team. They're too old and they're ready to win right now.
But Scott, maybe we are just halfway on a rebuild and halfway there, see? That's what Spurs are always doing. We're always halfway there, never there.
Nearly the right phrase. I like to think of it with us as half-assed.
I'm just being polite.
We don't go all in with any plan, do we? It's either we buy a few great players, then leave it, or we start a rebuild with youth and a promising young manager that likes to work with the young players, and then we just leave it again. It's always the same.
Let's just quickly. Daniel Levy is in the chat. That is fantastic.
Big up.
Stick around, Daniel, because I have not finished slagging you off in the slightest.
You will like this then.
Yeah. You'll love that. You'll love that. Daniel, listen, if I had an audience with you, if I had an hour to have dinner with you, mate, I would not be talking behind your back. Just quickly, guys, away from Tottenham, just for 1 minute, kind of involves Tottenham from a Dele Alli front. 2 bits of breaking news. One is that Everton's Dele Alli is in talks about a move to Besiktas in Turkey. I'm going to come to my point in a minute. And the second is that Man United's new target is now Caicedo from Brighton, the Brighton midfielder. Moises Caicedo. Yeah. Now, first of all, let me ask you guys. So I know it's not Spurs, but have you ever, if Dele Alli goes to Besiktas, seen a fall from grace like Dele Alli's in 3 years? I mean, that is crazy, right, guys? To go from everyone wanted him when we were talking about 120 million to Man United and Chelsea, to can't get a game for Everton, who look like relegation material, and going to Besiktas in the Turkish league. No disrespect. What do you make of it, guys?
My question: how much are we going to get from that?
I don't
know. How much are we going to get from that, right? Who gives a shit where he goes? He can go to MU for all I care.
Do you know what? Actually, that's quite good, because, Scott, what you just said about when Liverpool actually sold one of their best players, Coutinho, for 140 million to then go and buy world-class Van Dijk and Alisson. At the time, I remember a lot of the debate from people was, would you sell Dele Alli to do the same thing? And people, no, you can't sell Dele Alli for 100 million. Now we're talking about He's basically gone on a free transfer to the Turkish league. I mean, guys, Kuva, tell me what's happened there? How?
Doesn't bother me because I've never rated him. I've always thought if he's not scoring a goal, he's got nothing to offer.
Agreed.
So fall from grace. It was always going to happen. As soon as hard times happen and he has to show he's got more to his game than that, he was going to fail. That's what's happened. He's lost his goal scoring touch, and there's little else to his game. It's just a pedestrian. No, just never rated him. I never saw what other people were saying, unless he was scoring the goals. Occasionally, he did something that was absolutely outstanding. And he thought, yeah, that's got us a win there. Sorry, go on.
No, go, keep going, Kuva. I didn't.
I was going to say a couple of goals against Chelsea, for example, grabbing the 2-0 win, and he grabs both of them, and you think it's probably the only player could have done it on the pitch at that point, because Chelsea would have had a plan for all the other players. But Dele Alli is that different player that doesn't play as a forward. He's not quite a traditional midfield either. He's that kind of strange in-between area, perhaps the false nine, some people would like to say, or something like that. But yeah, he's just not had it. I mean, there's other players you see falling from grace. Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, same sort of thing. Perhaps not to this catastrophic level this quickly, but it has happened with players. Ronaldinho as well. He fell very quickly when he fell.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a guy that had completed football, hadn't he? Like, he literally, I think Ronaldinho almost told the world, I've won it all. I now want to go and have sex with a lot of women. I mean, it was like, okay, cool.
You same attitude that Dele Alli has.
I mean, Scott, listen. I'm like Hoover. I think Dele Alli burst onto the scene and he was this unknown player and people didn't know about his runs. I think once people started to realise that is his game, he didn't have a lot to it. But could you ever imagine that 3 years ago we'd be sitting here talking about not only him going basically on a free to Everton, but that 6 months after joining Everton and starting 3 games for Everton, that he's now in negotiations with Besiktas.
Yeah, Dele is. There's two aspects to him, I would say. The first thing is, like you said, I think he was great at that role that he played, and it fit perfectly with the players around him. But once, like you said, once people figured out that was kind of the only thing he had, he just had no solution for it, right? When people started realizing, oh, he can do this one thing, whether it's because he didn't personally work on it or because he just didn't have the ability to make the changes needed, I think it's probably a bit of a combination of both. Then it just shows that he didn't have the total football ability or willingness or desire to make the changes you have to do. So, I mean, it should be a cautionary tale for every young footballer that the reason why Ronaldo is great is not just his God-given ability, but that guy works his ass off all the time, right? He's never happy. He's never satisfied being great. He wants to get better. Harry Kane as well, right? He works. He was a guy who, as a youth, you hear he wasn't one of the highest rated youth guys of his around him, but he worked, never stopped, building up his skills, working on the skills that he was already good at and improving them. And the other thing I see with Dele is, I don't know if you guys remember the first 3 games last year, the Dele renaissance, as it was, when we were hearing about how much he was running, how great he was. Get ready. Dele's coming back. We have to look at it. And
because he ran a few kilometers.
And right, he was great. The first 3 games, he was one of our best players. I remember arguing with plenty of people about it. So I hope people remember that this year when we're saying the same kind of crap about players that aren't good enough.
David?
They are not good enough for a reason. Just because you think, oh, there's one little thing that they're doing, they're not going to improve. They have shown that they're not good enough. Let's believe what they show us on the field week after week after week. And I know it's fun to buy into the hope because we really want them to improve. But it should be a cautionary tale.
The funny mention about the running statistics and things like that. The season before Ericsson left us, he was still the one that covered the most ground out of the entire squad in matches.
Yeah.
And people said he'd down tools.
Yeah.
Shows how little that stat means if you're not performing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just quickly, gentlemen. Sorry, I have had 3 super chats. So thank you very much for everyone's generosity. Let me find them now. So the first one was from Joe Edwards. I asked him about why we lost to City and if he thinks they're going to beat us again this year. And he has come back very generously and said, no chance this season with Haaland and our new signing of Sergio. I think you beat us because of our formation we used against your team with pace, with Son. We had no chance. So listen, thank you very much for the super chat, Joe. And I look forward to playing you in just over a month's time, I believe, that game, I think, just after the international break, maybe. Paul Markey has said, looking for instant change doesn't work. Be rational and accept it's going to take 2-3 windows. Also, you don't sell your world-class players. I've got issues with this statement. I've not got any issues with the super chat and the donation. Thank you very much for that. But I don't think it's instant change. I feel that there are fans that think when we talk about this, we're talking about we want players now that win the league. That's not what we're saying at all. I just want to see improvements on the 11. And so far, I've not seen any improvement at centre-half. I've not seen any improvement in midfield or right wing-back. We already had the front 3. So for me, it's a bit more complicated than that. And also, you don't sell your world-class players. Well, that's not true. If people didn't sell their world-class players would never get a move to other world-class clubs. So that's not true. And Liverpool is the biggest example of.
I was just going to. We just talked about Liverpool wanting to be like Liverpool. They sold Coutinho. So, like, that's. I'm not
who
saying
was their star player.
And the other thing is, right, don't forget, we're already in our second window with Conte.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. How long does. Again, the thing is, we put it into this Conte box, right? Like, Conte's just joined. But for the fans that have been shelling out money year after year after year, this isn't. It's not patience now. This has been happening for years. And the last super chat I've got there is from Joe Edwards, who has said, Dele Alli has no passing game. His job for Spurs is to bag 10, 15 goals a season on signing, and he hasn't lived up to that. I mean, I just feel that is there room for a player nowadays in football that centre forwards maybe, but if you are a midfielder, either in a 2 or a 3, you can't not have other facets to your game. Frank Lampard was one of the best goal-scoring midfielders ever, if not the best. But he could ping a ball. He was brilliant at passing and breaking up play. And so I hear you. But and guys, Moises Caicedo. Quickly, Moises. I mean, that's an absolute farce of a club at the moment, isn't it? Eugene, do you want to take that? I mean, Man United seems to be linked to everyone and anyone.
It doesn't matter who goes to United now. I don't think they'll be. It's not going to be solved by bringing any. Come on, United ever since they lost Ferguson, right? They've fallen off the cliff. It's so obvious. Yeah, they've fallen off the cliff. Yeah, for sure. Right, and the standard that Sir Alex put up there, it's not going to be achieved that easy again, right? At the moment now, we have not seen another manager do that. Okay. Right. Maybe we give another 10 years down the line. Maybe Klopp and Pep is still with Man City and Liverpool. Maybe they might reach close to it, but I don't think it'll be ever achieved again. Right. Or maybe you say Conte stays another 20 years with us, then maybe we'll achieve something like that. Right. But I don't know. I've been watching a lot of the Terrace from with Terry and all that. The Glazers, it's down to it. It's just it's like going back to 2 seasons ago, while we were shouting that Dyer was shit, we were calling him names, moon boots, and all the blah blah blah. Right? Davis couldn't kick 5 yards ahead of him. Dyer could have hit 3 yards ahead of him. Right? And we're going on this Enoch out. Right? And then the fans, and then why are we paying money to the club who doesn't support back to the? It's coming one full cycle again, and it's happening with Manchester United now. Manchester United, what they have to do is they have to really go for a rebuild, right? Most probably get rid of the whole squad, right? And trust in Ten Hag and rebuild. And maybe in the next 5-6 years, you'll be coming back to put up a fight. But whoever you bring into Manchester United now, it's not going to solve their problem, right?
Yeah.
You can take Mbappe, Benzema, right? You can take all the best players in the world and throw them in Manchester United now. It ain't going to save them, right? It ain't going to save them. Remember,
I think if you
remember Martinez came in. Oh, he's going to be so good, right? But you put him next to Harry Maguire. Look what happened in Brentford. Right? Sorry, Kuva, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you brought in the right players, you could turn it around, and it could be as little as 2. If they actually did manage to get in a Frankie De Jong, and then like a midfield general alongside him, so they got control of the centre of that field, they could start dictating play and defending and giving their defence some cover. They could get the confidence going in the rest of the team then and turn things around. But at the moment, you just can't see them getting those sort of players.
But the thing, Hoover, right? You're talking about who wants to go there now. Even Frankie De Jong says that I don't want to go there. I prefer to go to Chelsea. But don't be surprised, right? Don't be surprised, right? For all you know, they'll smack Liverpool this weekend.
This will be the game, in my humble opinion, and I'm sure someone will remind me of this if I'm wrong. And that's the worst thing about having a YouTube channel is people remember everything you say. I think this will be the game that ignites Liverpool's season and will put so much pressure on the Man United board and Ten Hag, and we're going to see riots and chairs being ripped out. And guys, I want to move on for the lot. I'm going to go for another 15.
Very quickly, is Nunes suspended for that game?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, that's going to help Liverpool then, isn't it?
I think quickly, I know you want to move on, but I think as much as Klopp doesn't want to drop the points that he has, I mean, it is a perfect way for him to build on, saying like, we cannot rest, guys. We have it kind of worked. He doesn't want to drop the points, but man, is there a better platform for him to say, you guys are resting on your laurels? You think you can just coast through these games? Like, he can go in there and kind of kick their ass and tell them, pick it up. And like you say, with United coming up, you could see a 6. I could see like 5-6-0, just a thrashing. So, but
yeah. I'm going to go for another 14 minutes, guys. So if you've got are you all right to stick around for 14 minutes, guys? Okay. So I'm going to move on to Wolves coming up this weekend. Before I do, I just wanted to look at this and say, yes, Vag Maniac, again, we brought in Perisic and Richie, who can play in the first 11 in any game. My question to you will be, how many games will both of those players start? That I don't think they'll start more than 40 between them, if I'm being honest, in the Premier League. And for me, this is a huge myth with Conte massively improved Davis and Dyer. I feel like safety in numbers. I watch Davis and Dyer and I crap myself every game. I think they're poor. But let's move on. I'm going to start with you this time, Kuva. Wolves at home. Wolves are a funny old team, aren't they? They're never easy to play against. They don't score a lot of goals, but they've got good technical players, and they have good spells in a game where they might dominate possession. Can you see them having enough to hurt us? And does the back four they're going to play against us, because they're moving now, aren't they, from a wing back to a back four? Does that play right into the hands of players like Son, Kulusevski and Kane?
In theory, you'd have to say there's going to be more room for our forwards to work with. However, Wolves are a pretty good, well-organised unit. It comes down to player quality at the end of the day for me. I think if we turn on the style, get one goal fairly early, I think we'll have a comfortable win. But the Wolves team, they know how to dig in sometimes. They make it difficult for you. If that starts happening and we start getting frustrated, they grow into the game. We already know what our defence can be like. They've got the sort of players that I absolutely hate for this sort of game. It's the likes of Dendoncker. He's not a good player, but he's a bloody great lump, and he gets in the box. And that's exactly what we seem to struggle with. Just a quality ball into the box with him on the end of it. The likes of Dyer, Davis defending it. It's, you worry. You really do worry that there's going to be moments like that. Are we going to come through them okay? Are we going to cut off the supply more? hopefully we're taking the game to them so much that they barely get an attack. But let's be realistic. You should expect another Premier League team to get a reasonable amount of attacks in a game. So it comes down to the defences. They've got a brilliant goalkeeper.
Yes.
They're organised otherwise. And how many times do we see a goalkeeper come to our place and have a blinder?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Kuva, let me ask just while I'm sticking with you for the moment. Lots of people in the chat already are pointing out that they've just lost Connor Cody. My understanding of this situation is they didn't lose him. They dropped him. Like he apparently was not in their plans to be one of their two centre-backs, and he wanted first-team football. Could them playing a back four as opposed to what we've seen for the last, however many years they've been in the Premier League, 6 maybe now? I don't know, 5, 6. They've always played wing backs. Could this change be too sudden for them? Because I'm assuming this is what they must have been working on in the summer.
Well, for them to be really comfortable with getting rid of one of their mainstay defenders, you've got to say they've got something well and truly developed in terms of how to play the game. So you've got to assume it's going to be a more attack-minded change, getting players further up the field, because they did not score a lot of goals, and that was their big downfall last season. I think Jimenez, I think it'd be fair to say most people were quite impressed with him over the last few years until he got that horrendous injury. He's not been the same player since, has he? I can understand that. You wouldn't want to jam your head in there where it hurts anymore. I fully get that. But it seems to show with his game now. There's a nervousness that never used to be there with him. So they are struggling. Yeah, it's a real shame because I thought he was a great player. It still is at times, but a shadow of what he used to be. He used to be a real danger man for him. I think we should just have too much for him now. But I don't think it's going to be easy unless, as I said, we do get an early goal, in which case it changes the shape of the game. They can't just sit back forever then. I think it will lead to another one. Then they've really got to open up more. I could see us massacring them in that case. But while it stays tight, they're the type of team that can frustrate for the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to come to you, Scott. Just before I do, just quickly, we're going to go for another 9 minutes. Please, if you have not hit that like button, please do. And if I could get 4 more subscribers, then I would have hit my record of the number of subscribers gained during one show. It means nothing to you, means everything to me, and it's absolutely free. I am 300 subscribers away from 2,000. When I get there, I will be giving away 4 tickets to see Tottenham Hotspur. So if you want to be in for a chance for that, please subscribe. I know, Eugene, I'm really nice. Huh? Yes. For that, not plane ticket. I have connections at Spurs. I don't have any connections at any airlines, I'm afraid. Sorry. Scott, I agree with Kuva. We should have too much for them. I guess for me, this will be one of those games, and I don't know if you agree, where it will be not a statement, but more of a, we're expected to win. Can we go out, get the job done? 7 points from 9, very healthy looking, ready to kick on, as opposed to banana skin, lose it, and all of a sudden you go, well, was it a great start to the... Do you know what I mean? It's one of those right on the edge. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, the narrative can change so quickly, and I think it's kind of shows at the end of with the Kane goal in the 96th minute and all the fun Conte stuff. I think that kind of changed the narrative of the last game. So, like you said, this game, I could see... I initially said I thought we'd just bully them away and kind of have an easy win, but then Kuva starts talking about some of their players, and I start saying, yeah, like the Donker, I don't want him on our team anywhere, but he does seem like one of those guys. I think you said he gets in the box and just lumps around. He also gets in the midfield and just kind of like disrupts stuff. Like not with like the skill and silkiness of Conte, but just with like just lumbering around there. And Neves is a guy who scares you. He seems like a couple times a year he comes out with a goal from 30, 40 yards out. Yeah. Would we ever be surprised if that was against us? So while I don't think they have, the quality up front to really hurt us, you do get concerned that they might have one of those games where it's just an ugly game and they come away with it. So I think this is a game where, it really could be a game where Son and Kane get their shooting boots on. They come out, they pot a couple of goals, maybe 2 each, and then you're saying, oh, who cares? Who cares that they had the bad 2 games?
Yeah.
Or it could be a messy game where again they struggle and they don't score, and then we thought the knives are out for Sonny and Kane now. If they have another game against Wolves where they don't score.
I mean, Scott, if we look at, they are a funny old team because, as Kuva said, everyone was very impressed with Jimenez up front until his injury. But apart from a top goal scorer, when you look at some of the creativity they've got behind that, with the likes of Neto and Podence and Ruben Neves, plus they've just added Nunes to that, who, from whenever I've seen him, looks a very talented player. I don't know if he's eligible to make his debut, but I feel like this is one of the games we just need to be. I think we'll win, but I just feel we need to be careful that we don't leave ourselves one-on-one at the back against these tricky little players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think if you show up, this is one of those games where you show up and we play our best, then I think we will win comfortably. But like you say, if we don't, they'll hurt us. And Wolves are interesting because you kind of think of them, like you said, I was like, oh, they're so easy. And then you list all those guys and you're like, yeah, you know what? They are. They are a lot more dangerous than you think. Or you look at their finishes. I mean, they've had some pretty decent finishes over the last couple of years. And so maybe they're just kind of like a quiet, unassuming. And actually, speaking of Cody, like I like that Collins. He's young, but he looked pretty good for Burnley last year when I saw him. Kilman looks pretty good. So you look at their team, and they actually do have a lot more quality than I think I initially kind of thought of, just thinking of them in general rather than looking at the parts. Yeah. It'll be an interesting game. It's a game where it's time for Son and Kane to show up. It's time for us to show up, and let's make a bit of a statement. It would be nice to make that statement to reassure everyone.
Of course, one to remember as well, last season, Lloris had an absolute shocker.
He did, didn't he?
I can't see that happening again. So
no, of course. I mean, everything about me tells me this is a win. I predicted 3-0, which is a bit optimistic for me. I'm going to come to you, Eugene. Before I do, Ismaila Turner. Let's, laugh out loud at Savva. All right, cool. Laugh at me. Cool. Never been laughed at before. You will be surprised when Spurs win the league. Yes, I will.
Get in.
I will be bloody surprised when we win the league, and I will be ecstatic when we win the league. There seems to be this belief that if Spurs won something and won a league, that I'm going to go, oh my God, this is shit. I hate Spurs.
All your content is out the window, mate.
Mate, listen, I have been waiting, like you have, Kuva, like you have, Scott, like you have, Eugene. I've been waiting so many years for some success. All I want is success. So Ismaila Turner, laugh at me all you want. If Spurs win the league this year, I will happily pay out on any bet I've had saying Spurs won't. Yeah. And I'll even do a stealth forfeit. maybe not the Arsenal shirt, but I'll do the stealth forfeit.
It's the same way to Savva when they say, "Hey, remember all those big name players that you asked for Levy to sign, and now he's signing them? What do you say now?" It's like, good. That's what we do, right? What are you going to do, Savva, when Levy starts buying all the players you wanted them to buy? I'll say great and be happy, but they think it's like some sort of gotcha. But
yeah, like. I want to come on here one day with all of you guys and go, you know what? I have nothing. I have nothing. We've bought, everyone's brilliant. No problems. But that wouldn't make for good YouTubing, and it wouldn't make for any sort of debate. And it never has. Look, I want to win leagues. You want to win leagues. We all want to win leagues. But what I want to say is, Ismaila Turner, does it work both ways then? So when Spurs don't win the league, does that mean you can come on the show and we'll all laugh at you? Because everyone every year tells me, guys, we're going to win this, we're going to do this, you're going to be shocked. I never am. And none of these people ever admit it.
No, you're no good there, Savva, because if you're laughing at somebody because we didn't win something, you're still in the wrong.
Anything I do is in the wrong. But this is the funny thing, right? Is these people never come back and say, "Oh, I was wrong," and then what they'll do is the next summer we start the game again. They go, "Best manager in the world. We've got Kane and Son. We've done this." I say we don't. I'm negative. They're positive. Blah blah blah. Anyway, Eugene, you're going to have the final say on the show. So Tottenham versus Wolves. Is there any way in which you see us all at what time's the game finish? 2:30 on Saturday, all in absolute shock, and we've been pipped to the post and we've lost the game. Can you see it at all?
Okay, first of all, a message out there to all you YouTubers, right? Please don't predict we win. Please don't predict we're going to batter them, right? It's only come out as the opposite, okay? Look at this, right? Last season, they played with 3 at the back, right? They sat back, they defended. We attacked, we couldn't break them down. They counter-punched us. But this season, with Jesse Marsch there, I think he's changed to a back 4, right? That's why Cody left, because Cody, he performs better at the back 3 with a back 3, right? So I guess he didn't fit into Marsch's plan. So Cody has gone to Everton, and now if they're playing with a back 4, maybe we'll get more chances to break them down. But for all you know, they'll be playing with back 8 again, right? And don't forget, they do have the talent there with Neves and what's Ruben Neves, and don't forget they've got Adama Traore, right? Baby Oliver, right? So that's it.
Eugene, what's the chances Adama Traore does something magnificent against us, and then for this last 2 weeks of the window, all we hear is Adama Traore links to Tottenham Hotspur? You can see it
again, right? For all you know, what Adama is going to run through Davis and slip past Dyer and score a goal, right? But to be honest, right, come back to the game. What we did, I think our mentality now is a bit stronger, right? With Conte there and all that, I think he would have a plan, but I'm still wondering whether he'll be he'll be in the dugout with the players, or he might have to take his touchline ban, right? Maybe he'll be sitting up in the stands, right, with his earpiece, right, telling what to do. That might still work out. To me, is that Wolves have never been an easy opposition for us at home. Weirdly, okay, never been easy. So I won't go there and say that we'll batter them. It's going to be an easy ride and blah blah blah. I'll always be the optimistic, pessimistic Spurs fan and say that it'll be a hard fight. And if we're lucky, we'll get a 1-0 scoreline, get a clean sheet at least, right?
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone's prediction. Is that your prediction, Eugene? Are you going 1-0?
Oh, sorry, not Marsh, sorry, Large. Was it what? Whatever. Right, not Marsh.
Okay, so are you going 1-0?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going 1-0. I'll go 1-0. Yeah.
Okay, Scott, give me a scoreline.
Well, I hope it doesn't upset Eugene, but I'm going to say 3-0. Spurs win.
So we've got 1-0, 3-0. Kuva.
Got to be a boring 12-all, really, hasn't it?
And all 12 of our goals conceded from set pieces.
No, I am going to go. Yeah, I've got a feeling for 3-0 as well as you, Savva.
I fancy 3-0, but as I always caveat everything, nothing surprises me with Spurs. If we were to draw that game 1-0, it wouldn't surprise me. But look, 3-0, let's show we've truly turned a corner. Let's put teams like Wolves away. And look, if we win, great. We kick on. If we don't...
I've talked myself out of it. It's got to be 3-1 because Dendonga is going to score.
Do you think?
It's the sort of crap player that always does against us.
No, Adama is going to score, I told you.
Adama.
Oh, God. 3-2 then. Yeah, 3-2. Let's go for that.
Me too. And our first clean sheet of the season, yeah?
What, on a 3-2?
No, I meant from the others, not from you, Kuva. I understand numbers sometimes.
Yeah.
Hard to ask, mate, because you're negative.
Adama will put in a cross. It'll be heading back towards their own goal, and it'll bounce off Dendonker's ass and go bounce into our net. And everybody will talk about what a great cross it was from Adama.
Just quickly before we go, would it surprise any of you? We've gone behind in both games so far. Would it surprise you if we go behind again and that starts being our thing before my dog? No. Would that surprise you for us to go behind again?
No, we haven't only just gone behind. A lot of games where we haven't scored, but we've been poor in the first half. Like there's a lot.
First 15, 20 minutes.
We haven't even gone behind, but just been poor. So no, seems to be for whatever reason that's what we do, and it seems to be longer than it's not just like a 1 or 2 off. It's a bit of a trend under Conte. So
do you know what? It funnily is, and not really funny, but every first half, I feel like we're really, really perennial slow starters, which is fine if you've got that kind of bounce back ability. But there are going to be games, aren't there, where you go behind and getting back into it is just impossible. But look, let's hope that doesn't happen. Eugene, thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed you being on the show. Scott M, as always, absolute pleasure. As long as we're not talking about Poch, we seem to agree on quite a lot. We'll have a Poch debate next week. Kuva, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, and Bob's boyfriend. Thank you for being here.
Piss off Bob as well.
Bad say piss off Bob. Guys, by the way, Greg Spur, when we say trend, I think you need to look at how many games last season we either conceded first or started very slowly in first half. It's not a criticism. Don't worry. Everybody else in the chat, thank you so much. Had a good audience the whole way through. Please keep smashing that like button. Thank you for all your super chats. And if you do want to subscribe, please do. And I will be back on Wednesday night with Henry Wright for Savva and Wright live tonight, talking about all of the Premier League games from last weekend, all of the transfers across Europe. And we'll be joined by Football Ferreira. Thanks very much. One love. See you all soon. I'm off to personal training. Bye.